Morning, everyone. Today's going to be an interesting day with the Fed meeting at later today. There are some setups. And hopefully, if the market decides to turn up, it's good to have them identified, right? What you're even looking at, or what you'd like to own. Steve Austin, what's up, brother? Dopey, good morning. Nafu, good morning. Morning, Sean. Good. I'm noticing some really nice setups. It really depends how this afternoon. No, it won't prevent me from taking any trades today. This FOMC meeting. But you'd want to have a nice cushion, on any new commitments or any positions you do have open. I mean, most of the positions I have open, I'm still going to respect my stops. Like EMPH, a close below the 20. CCJ, a close below the 50. LTHM, a close below the 20. So, Tesla, my stops basically just right around break even, a little bit above it. 305, and it's pushing back up this morning. It almost stopped me out. I told myself I was going to move my stop up from 304 to 305 and a half yesterday, and I almost got stopped out, but it closed well. But like names like CELH, nice little daily. CHK is another one. Over 105 is interesting. EMPH, maybe for some ads above 320. This LNG, I marked up the 170 spot, but I don't know. I prefer this Oxy over 65. We'll see. I kind of had wish it would have held on and then pushed through the pivot on volume, but yeah, PLL's another one that I've got on watch. Yep, over 64. It's a fast mover, so Suave's another. Aura's another. I mean, there are some nice charts out there. LTHM's another. Over 35, maybe a good ad spot, or even open a new position possibly. Nice little lower highs, higher lows. I mean, nice little hourly chart here. Penny, come on, girl. Yep. Suave, LTHM, those are nice ones. CHK is another really nice one. NOC is another incredible daily, and it just gapped to, new 52-week highs today. I mean, this chart here is insane, this daily base. What's up, girl? Yeah. See, the thing is that meeting's later in this afternoon, and if I open up anything, my plan would be to do that in the morning, and obviously size properly, and then if they begin to work, into the meeting, then just respect your stops at that point. If it pushes out far enough today, and you can get a chance to move your stop up to break even, great. If you don't, just make sure you're sized properly, because volatility will be high. But I'm not going to pretend there's not some good looking dailies out there, because there are, like this PLL over 64. And then if what the Fed has to say is somewhat dovish, or that they're on top of inflation, whatever the hell they're gonna say, then we might have an opportunity, to be in some nice setups early. So I'm not gonna totally just disregard all these nice setups just because the feds have got to talk. Just size properly and respect your stops. These are clean pivots. You know, there's going to be a reaction to Powell's words, one way or the other. It's not so much about the initial reaction I care about. It's the reaction to that initial reaction that I care about. If that makes sense. Well, if we get this initial hard push, what's the reaction to that? Does it just tank and go round trip, or does it, do these nice ass setups, start pushing out, or does it tank and then, and then just continue to tank and nice setups break down, or do the bulls step up and buy whatever volatility there might be? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I see, like something like this one versus like, and I get it, right? In a way, it can kind of be like Oxy, but the difference with Oxy is just like this last couple periods where it found support on the rising 100. This one also could be doing that, and not to mention it's also gapping above that area that I had 65. I even mentioned it on Twitter last night. Over 65 looked pretty dang interesting. Close near the highs 3 days in a row. I mean, that's usually pretty bullish. And it, found some support on the rising 100. CEIX is still kind of in this no man's land. I mean, it didn't quite come down to that 100. And so I don't really want to buy this dip. I would rather just, let it push up, get to, 70 and go sideways for a couple. Like down here was a little bit better. This is where I want. Hey, girl, come on, knock that shit off. But yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait. There's so many names that you can own. Like CHK has a nicer daily, nice, clean, perfect flat base at 105. Basically over 105, and hey, girl, come on. Seriously.
Good morning. Morning, man. How are you?
Morning.
Well,
We'll see what the market decides to do. Tesla looks nice too. Who knows? It's Tesla over 313, 313, or 313, 314, I should say. I mean, I don't love these rising wedges. Not if you're not already in. But yeah, PI is another one. It's a semiconductor name, right? Yeah, nice eye. Set an alert on that just in case. Yeah, PI's another nice one. On's another one, but I've already have a position in On. I would add to it if it started to retake out yesterday's highs. I might consider adding to it. It's all dependent on our market. It's everything's dependent on our market. But CELH looks good. CHK looks pretty good. Obviously, EMPH needs to get its act together, but it could easily find support on the rising 20 again. Yeah, PI. If PI takes out yesterday's highs, it would be pretty good, in my opinion. I mean, I kind of would like a little bit longer of a consolidation, but we might not get it. It really depends on the market's attitude this afternoon. Yeah, this Suave is nice. Yeah, no, sorry about that, guys. I actually forgot to hit the record button yesterday, like a total dumbass. My bad. Yeah, it was supposed to make it to YouTube. My bad, dopey. I'll try to not let that happen. Believe me, I hit the record button first thing, as soon as I started to stream this morning. They'll all be still up there. I just slipped my mind. Don't worry, we didn't open any positions yesterday. Literally, only thing I was doing was just scanning, and then just kind of monitoring my Tesla that I just opened the day before and a few of the positions that I had just recently bought. Otherwise, I didn't do anything. Just sitting in what I own, letting it work. This uranium names yesterday were interesting. They got this really big volume push. I'm not sure if it was from retail or institutional or what, but it was pretty much across the board. Not sure what the hell that was about. We'll see. Problem with this uranium space is it's so small. Tons of retail eyes and BW wide and loose. Yeah, a little bit. It's flagging up, right? It's flagging up, but you look at something like PLL, it just looks tighter, doesn't it? Just like compare the two. Just looks tighter than BW. Yeah, URA, URNM, they are, URNM or URA needs a little bit of help, but URNM might be finding support, right? Rising 50, flattening 200. Again, I have no idea. Today will be pretty telling. If it starts to really undercut yesterday's low, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to just stick with my thesis. CCJ has to close below the 50, but that'll be likely to happen if URNM and URA start to roll over some more. But CCJ's the leader in the bunch. It's also the most liquid for institutions. So if anything's going to get institutional support, it's going to be something like that. It's the most liquid in the bunch. Yeah. It appears as it may have. I wouldn't necessarily want to buy this. Again, it's not perfect, and it's not a name that I believe is in a leading sector. It's just a random ticker that just could be finding. Yeah, communication equipment. I don't know. I don't know about that sector right now. It doesn't feel like a leading group. AEHR. Yeah, this one could use a week. AEHR could use a full week. And then, check on it again, see what the hell it looks like. It's not just gonna fly without you. I mean, it could, but well, let's look. EXTR communication equipment. Let's look quickly. Hold on, guys. Give me a minute. Let's see. Well, the leaders in that sector for EXTR are Cisco, and Cisco looks like crap. MSI looks okay. Nokia looks like crap. UI doesn't looks. Yeah, I mean there are some things above moving averages. I mean I can't totally discredit CRDO. Let's see. CIEN. Yeah, the sector just needs more work. Don't be quick to buy something in a random sector. It's nice to see crude pushing up higher this morning. Wish I would have somehow got myself into this oxy, but yeah, I mean, it found support potentially on the rising 100 again down here. And then it closed near its highs a few days in a row. You know, on Monday, it closed near its highs. On, Tuesday, it washed back out, but closed right back up near its highs. And then yesterday, it, flushed again, built higher lows, and closed right back up near its highs. So it created a pretty nice clear pivot, like, 6480s to 65 basically. So, over that area, there's definitely some interest as long as crude's pushing and, that sector continues to act well. We'll see. If you miss the move or if I'm not going to be able to catch an entry, then, might have to wait until it tightens back up underneath this pivot up here. And, at that point, it would be up above all moving averages on the daily and the hourly. That would, be a little bit better of a look. But sometimes, if you can, like I talked about, maybe this undercut rally at 63 could have been an entry on Monday or, maybe today over the push through 65. But if you Dopey. Yeah, I do take positions during pre-market if they do trigger. It's just got to be a clean trigger. All right, the last one I did was Nvidia. The last one I did was right here. Would have been on this day. So I literally bought these all on the exact same day, on 7/27. So as it broke through this pivot right here in pre-market. So I was trying to get long through previous day's high, and then I was at my desk early, and I literally bought right in pre-market. Right in pre-market, right 169, and I did the exact same thing with Apple. I bought Apple that day. I bought Tesla that day. All is the higher low setups like Apple, literally right here. Was down right in here. Right, wanted to buy it as it was going through the previous day's high. This one was at open, but yeah, Nvidia was the one that I ended up buying in pre-market. It was the only one I ended up buying in pre-market, but again, I bought every single stock that in that sector, not that sector, but you know the leading names in the market that day. This one down here, 87. So yeah, I bought them all. Soxel as well, AMD, Apple, Nvidia, Tesla. They were all higher low setups on the daily, every single one of them. You know, Apple was kind of giving it away. Higher low, higher low, higher low. You know, I got in on the fifth higher low. But yeah, Foxy would have given me, you know, clean little push through 65. You know, pre-market, I would have considered it, but right now, not so much. I might even just pass on it altogether. I like to buy through levels. I don't usually like to chase. Sometimes I do. If you look on the smaller time frame, you know, build yourself a position with stops at low a day. We'll just kind of see how it opens. Tesla's good though. Tesla didn't stop me out yesterday. That was nice. But at this point, a close of the 50 on the hourly. I'm not going to give this thing too much wiggle room. You know, it's not a whole lot's perfect out here in the market right now. Plus, you know, that big Fed meeting. If things are meant to go, they'll go. But yeah, there are some names of interest. You know, we'll see. NOC, CHK. We'll see what they end up doing. So LNG's kind of gapping up as well. LTHM. I've got a little pivot here at 35. Make sure it's marked. You know, Aura looks pretty dang good too. See what this ends up doing. Yeah, Celestial Energy Group. There's no setup there. It's a monster, but I don't see a setup. If there was a setup, it would have been down here as things flattened out. You know, look at the hourly as things flattened out. You know, it didn't really do anything for a few weeks. But now, I mean, what are you going to do with it? Nothing to do. That's why I'm watching Aura. Same exact sector. Just, you know, a much tighter setup. Yes, sir. But yeah, trust me, I've noticed CEG is a big regret of mine because I was staring at it down in the low 50s, and I started to tell myself that it looked like a nice base. And then, when EMPH took off, CEG gapped up, and it's been, one of the strongest names in the market ever since it did that. I'm fortunate that I didn't get in. I didn't buy that gap up. Wasn't on earnings or anything, so I just was like, nah, I'll pass. And then, looking back at it, $40 later.
ADMP, IMT, ADMP, MBB,
Good luck, everyone. We'll see what happens.
MDVL, EJH, MDVL, MDVL, IMT, MDVL, 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 LTCH, MOHO,
Yeah, NOC. It's exactly what a stock does when it's breaking a range.
ASTC, MOHO, MOHO, PBLA, ALYI,
It's what a stock does when it breaks the range.
SOBR,
NOC. We'll see, though. Tesla looking good. Yeah, the CMPH,
PBLA, SOBR,
we'll have to hold this.
TC,
We'll have to hold the ascending 20 for me to stay.
PRTD,
We'll see. Today just might be another slow day until that Fed meeting actually happens.
PBLA, PPCB, PBLA, SABA, SOBR, SOBR, HLGN,
Yeah, and I believe they need more basing too. So it's not like I'm very excited about them. Plus, these kind of just went sideways too long. Like you almost need like a failed breakdown, a shakeout in the base.
GMER,
But I'm gonna respect my sell rules. I don't, they can be slightly bearish on it all they want. I'm gonna be green on the trade no matter what. But I have to respect my sell rules. It's just part of the deal. Until Ryan and Mr. Kell start putting cash in my pocket, then I can't really listen to anybody else's opinion. But yeah, I mean, I believe that they're right. This thing has gone. This thing has gone. It would have been nice to see it go yesterday. Ideally, it had tightened up plenty. It didn't need to go. It didn't need to go another day. And then that pullback yesterday. It's
Ariel,
yes.
I bought two things.
What'd you get?
DI and CAH.
Di.
No, C. They're both Sigma.
Oh, Cigna.
Yes, Sigma and CAH.
Cigna looks great. Cardinal Health. I mean, Cardinal Health wasn't perfect, but if you bought it over yesterday's highs, that's fine. Cigna looks awesome though.
ATRX.
This Cigna's gone for you, I believe.
Okay. All right. So you're okay with my.
Yeah. I actually looked at Cardinal Health too a while back. I just said to myself it needed a little bit more time, but this is fine.
It's the gap up. I mean, I don't know. I think it looks good.
SOBR.
Cigna looks amazing though. That's a nice base.
Okay.
Yeah, Cigna looks awesome. And again, it's not like they're some schlub ass company. They're real. They're real. Makes real money, and I mean, they were who I was going to use for my health insurance. Instead, I shoot myself in the foot with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So we're LP and CH have been closed under the 20s today.
Yep.
Looks good.
Yes.
IMT.
Oh man, today's really going, and we got stopped out at that.
Which one's going?
TNK.
Oh yeah, TNK.
We had it, man.
Yeah, we did. And sometimes that's why, like Mark Minervini, he uses the last low pivot. We should have been sized properly, and the 23 basically should have been the stop. Where were we in 25?
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that thing's going vertical, huh?
yeah.
That's what nice setups do. But sometimes it's not that the stock doesn't want to go and that the fundamentals don't match the technicals. It's just, we could be a day early. All right, nothing's really triggering right now. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of selling right now. Suave stopped you out. Yeah, if it would have stopped you out, it would have done it, sometime a week or two ago. Not right now, right? I mean, you didn't just buy it right now, did you? Oh, yeah. You. Stocks do that a lot, especially in the morning. You cannot. You almost don't. It was a great buy, but you don't like. How do I say this? Like stocks will do this a lot, and it's one of the things I mentioned in my first stream. Like a stock like this will go. It'll just barely crack that level and then reverse, right? So, it's I almost always like to wait for the first, 10 minutes, 15 minutes for things to settle. Very rarely do I want to take something right at opening print, especially on low volume. Although I guess it did print a pretty nice 20,000 share candle, but can't believe Sava's still going. That's unbelievable. Holy cow. Yeah, big sell-offs everywhere, really. Unbelievable, this Sava, man. I didn't really see a setup on it, but a dip buy opportunity maybe as it found support on the rising 20. I don't know.
Check ET, your call out from the other day.
Which one?
GLS.
Yeah, yeah, just Momo. But here's the thing: is it's getting back up above everything, and it's putting big accumulation candles in
CGSI.
on the daily. Big old chunky green bars, and and it's holding up. Means someone's accumulating those shares.
SNTI.
Unbelievable, man. Definitely Momo. But if the thing will, now puts in this big flagpole from the bottom, basically triples, and then, now if it can go sideways and tighten up and give you some kind of a tight area, then maybe. Tesla still looks fine. CCJ. It feels like CCJ might be rejecting the 10 on the daily. But we'll see. Still a long rest of the day, but it's not the most encouraging for my largest position. And then if EMPH closes like this, then I will be out.
COSIET.
PI is not in the wrong sector per se. It's a semiconductor, and there are other names that have been acting well on GFS. GFS, a little laggard, but And what is the other one? Oh, that's a lithium, SGML, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a few names that are acting well. You know, PI and On most notably. Yeah, and you know they can carry. They can be the new breeds to the semi sector. It's like PI's not the only one. You know, SMCI was another, but
RMDD.
kind of took an ugly spill. Yeah, PI's not bad. Again, so is this LTHM's not bad. You know, we'll see. Suave looks pretty damn good. Yeah, PI looks fine. PI looks fine. Over 92 and, you know, stop out at 90. Not bad. $2 worth of risk for a $90 name.
SNTI.
No, you just okay. One of the things that I always remember Christian saying is like, does the setup look clean and linear? Like, it shouldn't look choppy. It should look pretty clean.
EVAX.
So, you know, as long as you feel like you have a clean supply area, that's really more important. Yeah. This year doesn't look as nearly as good as URNM, and URNM's not looking that hot right now either. It's going to have to find support down here. If it doesn't, like I said, I still want to respect my rules, but you know, sometimes I might have to get my butt out of there sooner. Who knows?
WKEY. WKEY.
Yeah, PI. That alert just hit for me. We'll see what happens. You know, sometimes when I see PI something like this, I then, you know, look at the smaller time frame and see how that's acting. You know, the only real issue I see, no volume. It's almost unplayable. I mean, 1,000 share candlestick, and then the thing moves, you know, $1. That's not exciting. You know, that's not exciting. I mean, volume can come later, but
Shares.
same with Suave. Yeah, it's just very, very, very low volume. I guess the difference between Suave and PI is, Suave's twice, 3 times as expensive. So that 1,000 shares carries a little bit more weight. But yeah, it's a fairly liquid day. It looks like out there again. It's not the best.
BBLT.
Okay. Suave. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just bought a little piece of Suave myself. Nothing crazy, but the setup is there. I can't ignore such a nice, consolidation. Size down a little. So, crappy day in the markets, but Suave looks good. Yeah, like I said, stocks like to do this. They'll just break over that breakout level, they'll come back, they'll shake everybody else out, and then they'll go. That's super common. And we'll see. And look, if you see more volume coming in with PI, that's what you would expect, right? Through that breakout level, that's what you would expect. If you took it, totally fine. It's nice to see that volume. Holy shit! Yeah. Now we're talking. You clearly weren't the only one seeing that level. That's what you want to see for your breakout. That's it. You gets over the previous day's high and you get massive volume and a quick push away from your average. That is literally perfect. Literally perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. This is it. And if you ended up getting those 92s, for instance, you are awesome in the driver's seat right now. You are way in the driver's seat right now. Just like that, a 2.5% push. Perfect. Perfect. Put you in about a most as comfortable position as you're gonna find yourself in. Honestly. Great eye. Nice job pulling the trigger.
PPCE.
That's perfect.
IMT. IMT. IMT.
And that setup doesn't look too bad. And like I said, you get a big ramp up like that on heavy volume. That's a good look. CCJ kind of crap in the bed. Man, tough. Yeah, PI was nice. PI was nice. It got tight, built higher lows, had a really nice move up, built some higher lows, flattened out a little bit. Long over the previous day's high.
DFCO.
That was nice. Very nice eye. It was very light on volume until the volume showed up, right? It was very light on volume until it decided to show up. And I doubt it was, any one of us buying 60,000 shares. Could have been a big group, obviously, of people doing it, but it's exactly what you want to see. PLL. I got an alert on PLL. And when it triggers, we'll be ready. Aura is another really nice one. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know that I'd want to buy it, if it's breaking through this level, with a stop at 95 and me buying it at 98. I don't know that I want to do that. It'll have been a big green day, bigger than your average daily range. So I don't want to buy something that's made that big of a move up. Move up, another tight day, and then gone. So, Friday or something. I know C looks great.
EVFM.
Yeah, who knows? I don't love this look on the daily. Gets right up to the 10, rejects, and then today, red day. I mean, that's, again, maybe a few more days, I guess, on CCJ. I still respect my stop, but it's not the most encouraging. Stem? Yeah, I'm in stem. Stem's, I'm using the close of the 20 as well. It has to close below the 20. And I'm being patient on these. It's early in the day. Like, you see how EMPH kind of washed out below the 20? I got to give it majority of the day. Like, if it's going to be like 40 in the afternoon, this thing's at like 298, then I'll be out. But, if it's down there first thing in the morning, I got to give it an opportunity to close above. Bounce, in essence. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I don't know. I do just want to be patient. LTHM, same deal. Giving it the close of the 20. I know C looks awesome. On looks fine. Stem looks okay. Suave. Not very exciting, but I did grab some myself, and it's not really doing much. We'll see. Yeah, the market's not very exciting this morning, that's for sure. But I mean, for the most part, a lot of these ETFs are pretty green today.
IMT.
Some of these ETFs still look like crap, but I had so many ETFs are just absolutely slaughtered. So many sectors in the market look like crap. Home construction. Regional banking, huh? This regional banking's had my attention. This KRE starting to look way better than most. I don't want to buy a pullback. I want to buy breakouts, and this isn't the market really to do it. So, there's got to be other ways to get into things: undercut rally setups and dip buy setups. Traditional breakouts don't work in bear markets. Until this market picks a legitimate direction, it's still going in the trend it's been going in all year, down. But yeah, I always want to buy things as the market's turning up. Life's much easier that way. Yeah. Yeah, these regional banking names have been showing some strength, honestly. Let's see. Let's look at the big ones. HDB. Above moving averages. IBN. IBN looks good. Wow. Strong. PNC. Kind of like crap. USB. Kind of like crap. TFC. iTub. Wow. Yeah, there are some acting much better than others. That's for sure. Regional banks. They're all slow, but, no wonder the ETF looks the way it does. Let's go, Suave. Get your act together.
IMT. 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 IMT.
And SPY is just going to be in this range, I think, until 2 o'clock. Who knows? Who knows what this thing does all day, but it's going to be a slow day out there, I think. Okay, so an undercut and rallies. Okay, I'll explain to you a little bit the difference between an undercut and rally and a pullback setup. So a pullback setup, we're buying it. So the difference would be, okay, here's the two difference, both on Oxy, right? So here's an undercut rally setup. So this was Friday's low, right? Call it $63. As price undercuts 63 and then ramps back through, right? That's an undercut and rally setup. A dip buy setup is this: the daily has already dipped, right? It found support, and then we're actually buying the stock as it's turning back up. So like on a day like today, if it were pushing back through 65, then the area of interest would be back through 65, and the daily has already pulled back, right? So really this is a pullback setup. You're buying it as the chart's turning back up, versus the difference between an undercut. It undercuts the previous day's low and then it rallies back up through the low. That's an undercut rally setup. So they're just two different variations of potential entries for names you're looking at. But yeah, they're two different kinds of entries. So this one would be an undercut rally setup, and then this would be a pullback buy setup. Stock's already pulled back. We're not actually literally buying the pullback. We're buying it as it's turning back up, right? How's pie looking for you? Pretty good. Suave too, maybe. Okay, CCJ, let's get your shit together, will ya? Would be nice. But yeah, EMPH, it's basically hanging on by a thread here. As long as it's going to close above this, 300 area, or we're really above 301, then I'll hang out. 301, 302, I'll stay put. Anything more than that, then, like at 300 or just a little lower, I'll be gone. But it's still very, very, very early in the day. So we have no fucking clue. We don't know. And I definitely don't want to guess. Everybody talks about, it looks like this, it looks like that. I have no idea. I'll just use some colored lines on my screen. It's much simpler. Like, I have no clue. I don't know what the big money's intention is in this name. But just remember, they're the ones who are supporting it. All we can do is ride the trend. And if it respects our levels, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Had I never stopped myself out on 9.2, my first buys were at 212 and then 240. Had I somehow had the balls to hold and still have that average, down in the 220s, then, I would probably be using the 50 at this point. Can you hear me? Sorry about that. Great question. You got in good, but kind of anticipated the volume. How can you have volume confirmation and not be in too late? So this is one of the things that I did mention, like in an earlier stream. Sometimes volume comes in earlier. The problem is I don't want to have too much effect on the stock. I would rather the stock be more liquid to begin with. Where some days this thing's just trading, 200,000-300,000 shares. It's just not enough, which is why I passed. If it were a $200, $300 name, for instance, well, then that might be okay. But so yeah, just you got it. As long as it's breaking out clearly through your level, and it's above your level, I think that's even more important. Volume can truly come later. Know where you want to exit, and know what your size is like, and you're sizing in properly. I think those things are much more important personally. Okay, I'm glad you guys hear me fine. But yeah, it is tough, right? It would just be easy to be like, oh, this name's super liquid, and it's breaking out just because it's got volume. Well, it depends. Like, I want higher relative volume, on the breakout. And really, you got this in this name. Like, you did get it. But it's tough, right? Because it came literally after you bought the damn thing. So, if you bought it in this candle and you bought, whatever, 10, 20, 50 shares, 100 shares, whatever it was, and then the volume came, that means you weren't the only one looking at that pivot, which is nice. You weren't the only interested buyer. And yeah, sometimes the volume does come later. It's if you wait too long for volume, the stock is gone, long gone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why sometimes the focus is just what's your key level, and it's not even a breakout until at least the previous day's high has been taken out. So, you did a good job of buying it, call it 92 and you're setting your stop at 90. You know how much you have and you know how much you can lose when you enter. The rest is out of your control. Like it truly is. The rest of it is just way out of your control. Yeah. GIS is General Mills. Yeah. Wow. Holy shit. On earnings too. What's funny is if we had been paying attention to this earnings report first thing in the morning, you're supposed to be buying opening range highs. First hour to make a new high at market open. 77.50 basically. That should have been the entry. And today's an EP setup. Episodic pivot, earnings gap, whatever.
MTTA.
That's a setup you guys need to study and learn. Nice little clean base. For the most part, pulled back, found support on the rising 50. And it's funny, look at how absolutely tight of a day it gave yesterday. Look at how absolutely tight of a day it gave yesterday. Right? I mean, we talk about that tight day. You want to buy things coming out of that tight day, and then now you get an earnings gap, and now you look at the volume today, and the day just got started. I mean, it's going to put in a pretty high relative volume day. This is called a power earnings gap. Like you wanted to be ready for something like this. I wasn't looking at this name for earnings, so it's also pretty slow. But yeah, had you bought 77.50, you would be looking really damn good right now. Really damn good. But yeah, great eye on GIS. That's called a power earnings gap or an episodic pivot. Post isn't really ready just yet. But GIS had earnings. That's that's what you want to see. And if you time that out right, it's like you have 70 cents of risk and now you're up 250. That's an ideal scenario. Hopefully, this market doesn't take things down too bad. Even if I end up getting stopped out of Tesla, if Tesla just goes sideways like one more week over 313, this thing is going to be perfect. Even if I get stopped out, that's all right. I will happily buy it back later over 313 if we get a healthy market, man. This thing looks so nice on the daily. Just another week of sideways, maybe pull back, find the 20 one more time, just build out like another week or two. This thing would be, and then again, hopefully we get a little pivot here soon from the Fed, man. That would be nice. Is Thinkorswim better than TC2000? It's just preference. I haven't taken time to learn TC2000, but I know they're both nice scanning softwares and charting softwares. I just got used to TD because that's where I started, day trading from. So I learned the program pretty well, and then my scanners were built through here, and I like the charting and the program, and no execution through it, but the charting's great. And it's just I just got used to it, so I'm here. Wow, what is going on in crude? Just a straight reject of the 20, huh? How's oil looking? Like crap.
Torque.
This is something I highly recommend everybody do. You get a list of all the ETFs and put them in a list, put them in alphabetical order, and you look through them all the time, and you can quickly start to figure out where money's going and where money's leaving. What's up, what's down. It helps quickly determine where money's going. PLL coming back. Very nice. And on just hit my alert too. I'm already in on, and I don't really want to increase this position just yet. I've widened up my stop quite a bit. I'm using the 50, and now it's kind of starting to creep up above that, that initial spot. Hopefully it'll catch up to my average sooner rather than later. But I'll be using the 50 on. Could very well be a leading semiconductor name. We'll see. Oh, NOC, baby. Awesome move. LTHM, nice. And PLL. PLL's another one, just incredibly thin. If you play this thing, it has to be with like absolutely perfect size. You're risking $3 too. No need to get aggressive in any of these names, especially in this market. Market still sucks. And then, one of the skills that you guys can develop is learning to read level 2 in time and sales. I used to do it a lot more when I was day trading. And really the only time I use it now is, that when I swing trade is like when I go to make my buy. When I'm looking for a breakout, I want to see volume push through that level. I want to see maybe some bidders step up. I want to see if there's a wall on the ask. I want to see it get knocked down, etc. After the breakout, do bidders continue to support it with supporting bids? So yeah, those are things you guys can all learn, and they can be super useful. I don't really read level 2 in time and sales. Like once the stock's broken out, and it's dollars away from my average, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not worried about every little tick at that point. It's irrelevant. But yeah, I am eyeing PLL here. It's a nice daily. Absolutely nothing to get aggressive in, guys. It's thin. It moves 7% a day. The market sucks. It's a really nice setup, but it just doesn't have the market behind it. But it's a nice setup.
SOBR.
Things are so slow, putting me to sleep. And I slept 8 hours. No, look, you can take something today. Just make sure you're sized properly in this market. Know that things are going to get volatile later, and have expectations for what you expect to see. You know, like, have expectations for what you expect to see. If you get a breakout, right, and it's breaking out over a key level of yours, it's just got to move quickly away from your average. That's the only requirement. You know, if it's a tight breakout on a tight setup, the only requirement is that it moves quickly away from your average. At that point, you can wait. Then you can wait for the meeting and then decide, how your stock that you're in reacts to that meeting. If it's going to stop you out, well, that's why you had sized in properly. If it's going to work for you, great. But the fact is a lot of these setups are the same, guys. They're these little high tight flags with clean pivots. Like LTHM, clean pivot. Suave had a little clean pivot, NOC had a really clean pivot that it just gapped right over this morning, which is awesome. Showing big demand. If EMPH were to break out to the top side, like clean pivot up at 320, I wouldn't take it today, obviously, because of, where it would have had to come from. Tesla with a clean 313 pivot, I probably wouldn't take that today either. I'm also in from lower. So it's like even something like on like a fairly clean pivot. Not the best, but you get the idea. It's like your expectation is when something's breaking out that it moves quickly away from the average. Whether or not it ends up working later, that's out of your control. But a nice setup, like a clean little setup, it's a clean setup. No, a setup is a setup. But yeah, you don't have to wait till tomorrow. If things are going to react really, really well to that meeting and they're going to start to push through your key levels, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to just react. Like if Tesla started to take out yesterday's highs, like I said, it wouldn't be something that I'd consider today, but maybe tomorrow. But like something like Suave, if Suave starts to cleanly push above 294, you don't gotta wait. Again, it's not really doing that right now, and that's fine too. But yeah, if that Fed meeting hits and things are healthy and pushing, especially names that you've identified that you'd like to be in that are tight, that's all you need. That's all you need. You can make your plays before the meeting as long as you're sized properly. Man, this aura looks so damn good too. Incredible. It's just such a nice chart. I don't know that it's one that I'd take today, but tomorrow. I wouldn't need a let's put it like this, I wouldn't need a tight day to buy aura tomorrow, even coming out of a nice green day. Why? Because it's just such a clean setup and it's breaking the range. That's more important to me than buying it out of a super tight day. I remember like X back here. X tried failing breakout, it pushed right back up, and then it tried to fail breakout again, and it put in this massive green day on huge volume. And I didn't buy it, but I remember Christian Koulamagi bought it on this second green day. Yeah, would you have rather owned it at 22? Sure, but if you owned it at 25, it still ended up working for you really well. Yeah, it's tough. We'll see if it holds, though. Could easily find support on this rising 1020 on the hourly. You have no idea. Neither do I. Just respect your stops.
CSUI. Hodl. SNBH.
Yeah, I've got an alert on PLL. I expect to push over 64 on volume, and if that comes, then, I'll be ready. I've got an alert. I mean, I've got an alert and an order queued up just in case. Yeah, I'm absolutely ready to execute on nice setups. It's just, a matter of your position sizing. There's no reason to get too aggressive in this market. And, if things are going to work and the market's going to turn up and, the Fed news is dovish, then, a lot of these names, they'll push and then they'll give you another tight little pivot in a couple days. And you can easily add to them, like which ones are working the best. Those are the ones you maybe want to increase exposure to.
FOMC. CSUI.
It's just so damn thin.
NHLE.
Yeah, I mean, over today's high, it's fine. Over yesterday's high, I mean, it's just really, just draw your supply line at 64, and then look at the daily, and then you'll realize like, a majority of the price action takes place below 64. Below 64, it's still in the range. Above 64, it's breaking out. At least that's the way I look at it. I just try to keep it very simple in my little brain. What area does majority of price action take place, and does it tighten up right underneath that supply level? That tightening of right under the supply level is exactly how we limit risk. You look at something like PLL, and you realize like, you know, and you realize like, yeah, okay, this thing's a fast mover, and if it is breaking out, I mean, this thing will go to 80 quickly. So risking $2 to get 15, it's not bad. That's if you get 15, right? Touch thin, but half size, nothing crazy. Absolutely no reason to get aggressive out here, guys. Okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Nice. Got a better average than me. You got a better average than me, my friend. But that's perfect. 6402 is great. Just, mentally know that you're sized in properly. Know that that's your objective. You don't have to have the very absolute best average. You just have to recognize, a nice strong sector. The market looks to be pushing up right now. I mean, obviously that can change on a dime, but market's pushing up. You're getting a little bit of volume as you get through this pivot. It's not much, but it was a tight daily setup. And we'll see. Literally. Half size on everything right now until the market picks a real direction. And once you start to get progress in the positions you have, then you can just continue to add to them. Like, CCJ didn't become my biggest position in one buy. I bought it 2 days. I bought it twice. That's how it became my biggest position. So, don't feel like, just because you didn't buy it all at once, that you're missing out on something. When there's a healthier market, you'll want to buy everything at once. In this market, not so much. Pyramiding into something's a little bit better. Something else I'm trying to get better at. Pyramiding into your position. But yeah, PLL, not bad, honestly. CELH maybe just taking longer to build out a base, not ready. CHK looks pretty good over 105, but I don't know. Probably still just a pass for me on this one. Not perfect. EMPH perking right back up. Yeah, yeah. You think I got in a little bit safer? Maybe. Maybe. Again, it's just a matter of sizing. You have to know what your loss is going to be before you enter. It's how you're able to hold the pullback. I already know what my loss will be if I'm wrong, and I know that I'm wrong 70% or 60% of the time. So it's like, all right, I'm good with that. I just have to make sure that, if this thing truly begins to work, that I sit there as long as I can and let my winner work. It's why I'm not micromanaging EMPH. If I'd have shaken myself out and then you're like, holy crap, now it's up $10 higher and, it's higher than where it closed yesterday. Now you're just messing with your emotions, instead of just following your damn sell rules. And that was my biggest problem, man. It was my biggest problem when I first started swing trading. Was you had these rules in your head of, what you wanted to do, and you just didn't follow them. You just did not follow them to the T, to the letter of the law. And if you just follow your sell rules, you're going to have much more success if you just, follow the rules that work. It's how you're going to allow yourself to catch that, 4 or 5 trades that just go ballistic. They had beautiful setups and then they just go ballistic. That's how you're going to be able to catch those, because your sell rules would have told you to stay in them. Even though something's going up, 4, 5, 6 days in a row, yeah, you sold a little piece, but you still have half maybe. And those sell rules will keep you in those absolutely dummy-sized winners. And yeah, you'll do a lot. Believe me, you'll do better than you think. And sure enough, EMPH is acting great this morning. Again, I don't really know. Could just reject this 50 on the hourly. I have no idea. Could just reject the 10 on the daily. I don't know. But it didn't close below the 20. At least not yet. Right? And that's what I care about more. Meanwhile, it's you're already up 50 cents on PLL. Nothing serious, but not bad. The daily chart's nice. LTHM over 35. Over 35, I might consider adding. We'll see. I never took a full position in this because I didn't long it at the perfect spot. 31.50 was supposed to be the spot down, down here, and I just didn't do it. I chased it up a bit. A dollar higher. But I've just been waiting for, a close below the 20, which at this point, it'll basically be a flat trade if I'm wrong. But yeah, over 35, in a healthy market, and it could be a nice little ad spot. And then I'll be quick to trim. I'll be quick to trim some. Yeah. Yeah, man. LTHM was a bummer. I was actually looking at it down here. Um, I like this look on the hourly that it gave down here. It's just this little stupid small consolidation. Like just this little consolidation. And then if you draw a little horizontal line at those tops, you'll realize man, those are both right at the same area. So 2670s was where I really wanted to get in, and it gapped pre-market, and then I didn't take it. I always want market to open. I want to buy through the level when the market's open. And it just did not freaking happen. Disappointing for sure, because I would have loved to have owned this thing down in the 26s. And of course it took off. You never saw red after that. Really? FSLR, huh? Holy shit. FSLR. Wow. Unbelievable, man. I can't even believe this shit. Still has yet to retest the 20. I mean, this thing is incredible. Not a chart I will take just yet. But damn.
FERL.
What a nice chart. Everybody has given up on these on Twitter yesterday. I've seen all the tweets from all the pros. They were all giving up on FSLR and EMPH. Well, it doesn't look like the big boys with the money are giving up on it just yet. But we'll see. I would love to see this thing go sideways or even break down some. If this thing broke down and found support at the rising 50, God, and then, that would be like a dip buy setup. That would be awesome. But who knows? I might never, ever, ever get a chance to own this damn thing.
HSTO.
We shall see. Suave looks okay. NOC looks fine.
CRTG. CRTG. MUMD.
looks cool. I was red on it a little bit yesterday, but my stop wasn't even the low of the previous day. It was the 50. And I literally have like no size in on. A third size. And PLL looks pretty damn good. Looks pretty damn good. Those may have been the best ones so far today.
LLLI. LLLI. PCQRF. PCQRF.
GFS strong as well. Yeah, it's a semi name. Yeah, this thing's starting to look really good. This thing is starting to look really good. You know, finding support potentially on the rising 50.
CLE.
A few more days for this one. I just don't see a perfectly clean supply area. You know, maybe like a downtrend break, but it's not perfect for me just yet. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Even when I bought on, it wasn't perfect either. But on has shown a little bit more juice. That was kind of funny. Uni. He said, girlfriend strong as well? He said, yeah, mine too. Nice little chuckle. I'm so confused what's going on with crude right now. I don't know. My gas pump better start getting much cheaper. It's expensive to fill up my truck. This shit better start getting cheaper with the way this thing's going down. Confusing, honestly. Very confusing. And EMPH is looking great. But yeah, everything you guys do, until we get much cleaner market direction, in other words, until you notice that the market is really back up in an uptrend, anything you open should be done on half of your normal size. Seriously, guys. Out here, there's just nothing that is so perfect that just won't get beat up by a shitty market, you know? Unless, of course, you bought maybe an EP and GIS. It's about the only except. Holy shit. Well, that's why you buy EPs, people. This is exactly why. Probably going to end up being one of the largest daily increases for GIS in a little while. Wow. Yeah, wow. Impressive. GIS. That's why you those earnings gaps, guys. They show nothing but tons of interest. Just tons of interest. $0.70 risk, and now you'd be up $4 or $3. It's great risk reward. Frey EP2. Yeah, but not on. It's definitely on massive volume, but it's just not clean and linear. The week it looks like it's breaking out of this range here, but it's not clean. Not to mention this really on the weekly chart. This thing's just been straight up. If price needs to flatten out for me to want to do something. This has just been like a rising wedge this whole time. Not something I like. I like price to go sideways and flatten. But, otherwise, the volume's there, it's clearly breaking out. Had you bought first hour to make a new high, who knows? But it's tough. Yeah, just shouldn't be on your radar. It is too slow. If you're a smaller account, this like slow ass names under like 4% average daily range, they shouldn't even be on your radar. This should be on someone's radar who has, $30-40 million to play with. And wants to buy 40,000 shares, through opening range highs. It's liquid enough, and it's expensive enough, and it's slow enough. Fits the bill. But yeah, things are very, very whippy out here. Sizing's going to be incredibly important. And until we get better market direction, guys, Like seriously, I'm out here taking half and third positions of stuff just to put some pilot positions at work and see if they work. But I'm getting stopped out at a pretty high clip. You know, I mean, I do have quite a few positions open: CCJ, EMPH, LTHM. Oh, LTHM. Here we go. I do have a few positions that are working, but for the most part, things are on small size. Like I said, I'd like to see how my positions react. How do nice things? How do I believe nice names are reacting in this market? And then, that'll be my judge for wanting to add, more exposure. Like STEM still working for me, finding support off the rising 20, almost clear as day. I mean, look at the day it's putting in today, right off of the 20. Look at EMPH, look at the day it's putting in today, right off of the 20. So it's why we want to follow our sell rules, but it's also why we want to make sure we're sized in well.
TMBR.
Oh, Suave looks good. Suave looks good. PLL reversing. PLL's fine. It's early in the day. Just respect your stop and know what your potential loss is if you're wrong. Yeah, smart. There, don't be aggressive to add 5-6 names today, guys. There can be a day, literally, when you can come into the market like I did with, with Suave on your watch list, with PLL, with PI, with, Oxy, with Aura, with NOC, with LTA. I mean, these are all like, CHK over 105 is a buyable pivot. NOC over all-time highs was buyable. Aura is buyable. PI was buyable. PLL was buyable. Suave the same. LTHM the same. So it's like, we're going into the day with 5, 6, 7 names that, you're like, man, these are all in buyable positions. Now, if we were in a healthy market, believe me, there's times when they'll all work. And you can go from no exposure to almost leveraged in a day. So don't be thinking that you guys got to get money to work today. 1 or 2 names, small size, and then let them work. This Tesla, I'm going to basically give it to yesterday's low. If it closes at yesterday's low or below yesterday's low, I'll be out. I'll take my tiny little gain and move on. You mean, yeah, were you saying you don't buy the EP in pre-market via the example you gave didn't come back to 28s? You mean LTHM? I didn't buy it in pre-market because it had no news. It had put in earnings a little bit before and then didn't do a whole lot. And then it pushed back up into this little area and then just consolidated on the 60-minute. It was pretty nice. And then obviously these two tops were basically identical. So I knew that over, 2670s, I wanted to long it, but then in pre-market, it took off without me. And I didn't want to buy it, 80 cents higher on no news. And of course, it was a regretful decision, but I would rather buy something intraday through my pivot level so that I can actually see real volume coming through. Like any little kind of a move down or move up in pre-market. But I understood what you meant. And I knew it wasn't an EP, but I knew what you meant. And no, EPs, I don't even really want to buy in pre-market. I would rather wait for the first hour to make a new high. First hourly candlestick to make a new high. Like, EMPH, this would have been your entry down here. Okay, so this was gap up day on earnings, so really you could have been looking to long it over this little hourly candlestick or even really this little top hourly candlestick as soon as market open. And if you were looking to long it right at, 241, great. Never turned back on you. But when the market was open. Or Suave. Same deal. I like to wait till market's open on these EPs. You just got to be ready for them. So here was your gap up from earnings the night before. And had you waited, until market was open and then been ready to buy because you noticed that it had earnings the night before, well, great. There's your entry right there, 242. But it's a pretty crap day out there, guys. Nothing's really truly pushing away. That's why these little pullback buys, they've been much better in this kind of a market. Find support on the rising 20. It's not really breaking out of the range. It breaking out wouldn't be until, this top here. Almost $17. And if you did that, well, right now you'd still be red if you were waiting for. If you bought up here, you'd be red. But instead, I bought the pullback buy. And pullback buys are going to work much better in a bear market, which is exactly what we're in. If I had to guess, I'd say that our market reacts probably pretty similarly as it did for the last FOMC meetings, which is it rallies, and then tomorrow, we probably take a shit. It just seems like it's what's been happening. What's the difference between a short covering rally and a breakout? That's a good question. I guess it really just depends how much short interest there is in a particular name. If you're talking about a short rally, for the indices, that would take a lot of shorts to cover. I don't know. That's a great question. Sometimes when names have big short interest and they break out, the shorts just fuel that rally even more. And it really is, as much as some people would like to tell you, oh, those are shorts covering. It's like, how do you know that shorts aren't just still holding on for dear life and it's just not bulls buying? It's really no way to know other than if you know that there's like a heavy short interest on a particular stock. But you have to know, like, if a particular name has a high short interest. Fintel's pretty good for figuring that out. Fintel.com. What did this just thing do? Wow. These commodity names not looking too good. On looks good. On's acting really well. On is acting really, really well. Yeah, it could have been, right? The only reason maybe Sava even ramped in the morning was, some more shorts covering. And then you don't know at the end of the day when you recheck the short interest, it could be lower now, right? It could be down to, 30% or 25%. Nobody really knows until the end of the day how many shorts covered. There's not like some live data that you just like currently and profit taking, of course. 2 massive days in a row like that, over 25% move. Yeah, 30% move. Yeah, I mean, but there's obviously wasn't a setup there for us to do anything with it. PDD not looking nearly as good anymore, and that's probably a consequence of FXI looking like shit. Those China ETFs looking like crap. It's basically right back at March lows, which is not very good. K-Web, I'm sure Bob also looks like ass. Yep, sure it does. It's crazy. Rejected the 200 perfectly. Look at that. Just perfect reject of the 200. And, yeah, China is going lower. Lee. XPEV. Oh, boy. Holy shit. Massive dumping in XPEV, too. Something's going on with these names, and it's not healthy. We'll say that. All right, come on, uranium. Let's get your shit together. It's tough to imagine these lithium names continue on and nuclear doesn't go with it. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense for me, to my little brain. But our job isn't to guess, it's just to follow price. If the institutions only want lithium, I guess those are the only names I want too. STEM starting to look really good too. Better. Potentially for an add-on setup. It just might need a little longer. Give me a clean supply area. That might be $17. It might be this nice little $17 area. If it can tighten up just underneath it while it's holding the 20, that'd be cool. But we don't know. Why? Because the SPY looks like crap. gonna go grab a Celsius. Be right back. Delicious. Sparkling wild berry. Pretty damn good. The second best one next to Peach Vibe.
CGSI. CGSI. CGSI.
Yeah, things look things look rough out there, honestly. Just looking around the market, things don't look too good. Charge point maybe finding support on the rising 50. That'd be cool to see if it would just tighten up and go sideways. You know, BTU looks like it might have found support on the rising 200, and it's done this a handful of times only to go higher. You know, we'll see. We'll see how that ends up panning out too. But you know, it could just also be rejecting this now declining 1020. So these are just going to need some time to shape up. Nothing's buyable just yet. ENVX just choppy. A lot of these energy names kind of look the same. Finding support on a rising moving average, and then, you know, it looks like a bunch of them are rejecting that declining 1020. Still early in the day, so I guess anything's possible, but holy Siga. This thing's about to do a round trip. This APLS is not bad. Just needs a little bit more time, but this isn't bad at all. Who knows, Netflix? What's good, King Lack? What's good, brother? If there is an FOMC rally today, well, then I want to know how the leading names are looking. I want to be in the names that I already have mapped out. You know, if Tesla really begins to rip, right, and Tesla starts to rip over 313, I mean, that could be one to consider. LTHM, you know, over 35 would be one to consider. I mean, yeah, there are just names that you have already mapped out. CHK over 105, you know, Suave, you know, through 294, you know, things like that. You know, maybe you've already got PI mapped out, so like, you know, maybe PI, you know, if you weren't already in, like through yesterday or even the previous day's high, 92, 92 and a half. Right, things like that. But it all depends on the market later. I mean, and how those names are react. Again, you're gonna get a knee-jerk reaction when the news hits. It's gonna be a flush, and what happens in that flush, or it's gonna be a pop, and what happens with that pop? Do the bulls stay in control, or is it just a pop and then a round trip, you know, and then lower than, you know, where that pop began, or is it just gonna be this big flush and our bull's gonna pick it up? There's going to be like a quick knee-jerk reaction always right away, but then the question is, what happens, you know, what's the reaction to the initial reaction, right? Yeah. The second move's usually the real move, or the third move, right? So you have to stay nimble, and that's why I am narrowing my focus, right? I only want to own a handful of, or I only want to focus on a potential handful of names. And if nothing's going to trigger, that's fine, because we also have to remember what has happened the second day after all of these FOMC meetings. They rally on day one and then they tank on day two. So, you know, I've paid attention to that, you know, and I don't want to get too aggressive just to then get stopped out tomorrow. You know, I'd rather let them push, and then, you know, if we get like a little sustained move up tomorrow, then maybe in a couple days or next week, the positions that you're in will be showing you like, hey, you know, we're working, and you'll look for another ad spot, you know, and you're going to be able to tell that just based on the positions you own, right? So that's going to be kind of how I treat it. It's going to be kind of how I treat it. If the market were already in a sustained rally, you know, or in a sustained uptrend, you know, and the market and the Fed wasn't doing these, you know, high interest rate hikes, then, you know, it would be easy to just buy these things. You know, we wouldn't be dealing with all this crap with the federal government. But since we are, you know, stay nimble. Stay nimble. And if things really, really want to go higher, then they will go higher, believe me, with or without you. But I'd rather have small size and then just add into something that's working. Like I said, CCJ is not really working for me right now, but, you know, it's basically up above my two ad spots, you know, and the average is like, this 50 is like just right above my current average. That's why I'm using the 50. Like I said, it sucked to see a bunch of those gains go back, but I don't want to micromanage this thing. I have a thesis, and I've got my stop loss set, and I'm willing to keep buying into something that's working. I don't want to average down into things. I want to average up. What do I have on my other screens? I'll show you guys. I'm looking at hourly charts. Well, you know, hourly charts, 30-minute charts, whatever. And this is what it looks like. And I'll shrink it down a little so you guys can see. You know, I'm looking at 8 1-hour charts, and it's above my main screen, and that's what it looks like. Not sure if you guys can or can't see that just yet, but this is these are my watches. Yep. Yeah, I want to keep my eyes on, my watches or some names that I might already be in, but yeah, I want to keep my eyes on them. See how they look, and I've got multiple screens, but there's only one real screen that I'm focused on. It's the one right in front of me, and then the charts right above my head. A bunch of hourly charts, bunch of daily charts, just to keep track of the names that I want to potentially be in or see how they're reacting. But my focus is usually just right in front of my face. Oh, 19 birdies. What's up, brother? It's nice to have you in here, man. I appreciate you being in here. Speaking of which, I know you're my neighbor in Indiana, man. We still got to get together for that beer. Or, whenever you and some friends are, got some time, come on out to Chicago. Let's go grab a beer and a bite. You're welcome to come kick it at my place one of these Sundays. Watch some Sunday football. Drink some beer. I got a pool table in my apartment. Shoot some pool, drink some beer. Shoot the shit, as they say. Yes, so let me walk you guys through my initial CCJ entry. I kind of noticed, so you guys got to remember, with failed breakouts lead quick to quick break. Failed breakdowns can lead to quick breakouts. So, CCJ was just in this like nice little range here, right? And then really what did it try doing? This was just the range that it was in. All right, let me highlight it. Okay, for the most part, this was the range. Okay, and you could see it on the hourly, you could see it on the daily, like pretty crystal clear. That's a range, right? Almost all price action took place within that. And let me remove. And then it tried to break down, right? But instead of breaking down, what did it do? It quickly got bought back up, right? And I kind of missed, I wanted to be in lower, like first hourly candlestick to make a high. So basically 25, but I didn't get that one, right? I ended up just watching this thing push up really hard. And then on this very next hour, it kind of dipped. And then I noticed, as it started to push back up on the smaller time frame, I started to piece myself in, right? And I was like, okay, I can live with that. And I didn't take big size, right? I didn't take massive size. I took, just short of a full position size. But, I was feeling comfortable because in that same hourly candlestick and on the smaller time frame, I caught a good average, and then it started to push away from my entry pretty quickly. Right? So 25.64 was my first entry, I believe, or 25.61, somewhere in this hourly candlestick. And then by the end of the hour, I'm up a buck. So I was feeling pretty good. Not to mention at the end of the day, it had basically cleared this entire range that I had highlighted. So I was feeling really good. And I also, again, know that failed breakdowns lead to big breakouts, and failed breakouts lead to, big breakdowns, right? Just the inverse. When something fails to break out, it breaks down. When something fails to break down, it breaks out. It's just the opposite. And that's exactly what we had here. So we had basically a nice shake in the base and then a huge push up on massive volume, and I had recognized that, right? There's already uranium chatter. It was a name that was already on watch because of this consolidation, and I was just like, is it going to find support at the rising 50? And it didn't. It just broke below the 200, and then instantly, a couple days later, it's ripping back through on massive volume. So then a few days later, this thing had perked up, and then it essentially gave me a red day, a tight red day. And it wasn't necessarily tight, but again, I had the thesis on uranium. And what did we notice about that tight red day? Right? If the top of this range was resistance and it pulls back and wasn't able to get back into that range, well, we know that resistance can become support, right? So I literally bought it right over that next day's high. And on the hourly, it looked like this, right? So here was where I wanted to own it, 27.30s basically. So as soon as it started to rip back up, and then again, what do I notice about all the hourly moving averages, right? They're trending up, right? Look at the 10, 20, 50 are pretty tight, but the 100, 200 are trending up. And as soon as it started to rip through that area on volume, like what do we notice about this volume candlestick in comparison to the entire previous day, right? And even the day before that, right? Big volume. So as soon as it ripped through 27.30s, I bought more, right? And I had $1 risk on what I had, but here's the thing. I already was green on the position because my earlier buys down here, right? So I was essentially bringing up my average, and I knew if it failed that day, then, I was just going to be flat on the whole thing, basically, because of my initial buys plus my rebuys. I would have been flat or slightly red, no big deal. But of course, it gave a really nice push. Not of course, but, it's what it did. And then at that point, it just put me in the driver's seat. And right away, I told myself, like, all right, I'm going to use the 20. And then it pushed even higher into the 30s. And that's when I was like, no, you know what? I'm, like, really going to give, like, these uranium names an opportunity to work. Why? Because it's what makes the most sense in my brain for the future. Could I be wrong? Yeah, I'm probably going to end up being wrong, as I'm wrong a lot. But, again, uranium, you can't have lithium going up, and you can't have California talking about all these electric vehicles without the use of nuclear. Like, what are we going to burn coal for the rest of humanity to power up our world? Like, that's unsustainable, right? And I know that, and I'm not some, like, science nerd or anything like that. I just got 2 brain cells that work, and it tells me that there's just no way we're going to keep creating the electricity we need burning coal. Like, nuclear is clean, and, it's just so I've got my thesis, and I decided to extend my stop a little bit, which is basically at my average. And, if I have to watch $4 or $5 burn back, it sucks, right? On as big of a position as I do have. But, there's a potential big reward for being patient in these nuclear names. Potential. And I don't know for sure if it'll work, but I will just be patient. And a close below the 50 is about all I can stomach. Lower than that, I won't be stubborn. But I will give these names, and I will give CCJ in particular an opportunity to work. I will give it an opportunity to work. Like, I'm not just going to micromanage the positions. Like, they're either going to go ballistic for me, or nuclear's not going to go ballistic. I mean, it's totally out of my control. Yeah, I could have sold some at the top, and some would say rebuy the low, and what have you. But guys, it's I'm trying to envision myself in the future, buying 500,000 shares of something like this and putting in $10-15 million, to work, right? So you can't micromanage that, right? There is just yes, I'm not there, but it's how I'd like to trade in the future. And you just can't micromanage positions when you've got that kind of position size. And, like, how do you exit 500,000 shares without leaving a dent in the stock? And then how do you re-enter that position? Because you want to micromanage, and you want to get out and lock up all the profit you can, and then get back in, and this, that, and the other. It's just easier to train my brain to just hold. And, knowing that those rewards aren't mine until the position has stopped me out, whether for a nice gain, or a small green or small red. One of the things that I avoid is big red, because I'm not just averaging down into a losing position that just refuses to work. I'm not, like, trying to force my will on a stock, right? Again, remember, I can't hold a stock up, even if I bought 500,000 shares, over the last 3 weeks. Like, I can't hold the thing up. It's traded way more volume than 500,000 shares. So, I need institutional participation. But once you have your position, once you got your stock and you own it and you've got a halfway decent average, then you just have to let the charts play out. And again, I've got a thesis. The market sucks, but as long as my rules aren't broken, I'm gonna just hang out. I don't give a shit. It'll either end up being, realistically, it'll either end up being, a $300,000-$400,000 winner, or it'll end up being a flat trade. And that just is what it is, or a little less, maybe $250,000, whatever. And again, I have no idea. I'd love to see this thing go crazy. I'd love to read headlines that say, uranium names going nuclear or something like that. Sounds like a good headline for, CNBC. And again, all of it is out of my control. I don't know. Like, we could have just bought PLL, and then maybe it's these lithium names that end up going crazy, and maybe it's PLL that goes back to 100 or more. I have no idea what stock ends up doing it. But that's why we have rules, right? It's to catch the stupid, these anomalies, these like crazy rips, these black swan moves, and that's really it. Like, that's why we have rules. How do I know when this thing will close below the 20? None of us do. Not me, not Brian Pierpont, not Oliver none of them. Nobody does. Not even institutions do, because we don't know who else is buying this thing to support it. Like, so why not just follow some colored lines on a screen like we're 5 years old? It's so much easier. It's so much easier. Just, follow some colored lines on your screen, guys. Like we're 5. But when do we get in? How do we get in? Well, we get in with proper size. We get in when the market's at our back. We get in with proper size, and we look for tight setups to limit risk. But then the rest is just like following some little colored lines on the screen. Like ON, I bought enough that I know if it closes below 66.50, I'll be able to sleep at night. The loss won't have been too bad, right? But if this thing really begins to work, look at this name. It's been a monster uptrending name. And then you got this super big channel, right? It had this like really big channel, and it broke out of that channel. And then now what's it doing? Broke out of the channel and now finding support on the rising 50. That's what it looks like. And I would just like to own a name that's strong like that, finding support on the rising 50. So if it's finding support on the rising 50, I sized in enough to know that I will stop out when that condition of it finding support on the rising 50 changes. When it stops doing what it's been doing for the last couple weeks. If it stops finding support on this rising 50, I'm out. But if it sets up again perfectly, and it gives me a clean supply area, I'll add, right? And now I'll be in full position. I'll have brought my average up a little, and maybe I won't be using the 50 at that point. But even if I do buy it higher, well, guess what? The 50 is also going to be higher. The 50 is not going to be at 66.45. It's going to be at 68 or whatever, which is just going to be now $1 below my average. So that's how I like to piece myself in. I'd rather pyramid myself into something. And unless I get a really nice, tight, beautiful setup in a healthy market. I mean, guys, that last part that I keep repeating, the in a healthy market part, is very important. Guys, in a bull market, everything goes up, okay? Don't think you're a genius like I was in 2020. I thought I was like, holy shit, man, I am just the smartest dude ever. No. It was a product of my environment, right? And a lot of 2020 traders will tell you the same thing, how much they've struggled in 2021 or 2022, right? They struggled because, things are going down, and you still got some of the same habits as you did when everything was just flying up. You would just buy a dip and wait 20 minutes and it was higher 20 minutes later. It's not how stocks actually move, guys, and they definitely don't move like that in this kind of environment. So, those are all just things to consider. And respecting your rules. But the fact is, the laws of supply and demand and institutions buying particular stocks, you just have to identify what they are, and sit patiently, and sit patiently. I don't enjoy watching, my names come back on me. I definitely don't, but it's part of what happens when we trade. It's just the reality. But Benny S, I appreciate you, man. Yeah. The nuclear thesis is a great thesis. Like I said, does it end up working? I don't know. But fact is CCJ has had really nice accumulation volume candlesticks, and they are right there. You can't miss them. You freaking cannot miss them. They're massive on the daily, and that wasn't me. That wasn't me buying. So there's something in the sauce. And again, CCJ is about the only liquid enough name for an institution to buy. So they're probably gonna try all sorts of little games with the stock just to like get their fill. An institution will, and again, we're not in a great environment, but these stocks are gonna try to shake you out as much as they can. But that's why you have to have sell rules. If your sell rules are violated, you exit. If they're still intact, just sit. Literally. Just stay put. Yeah, there's not much, guys. Yeah, things are at a standstill. Like, I am not looking to buy much, right? I took a tiny piece of NOC, and that's just not doing tons. And then, and Suave today, and that's not doing tons. And PLL today, and that's not doing tons, right? But all of these positions, they're all half sizes. If none of them work, it is what it is. And then I'm just managing the rest of what I own. Tesla, I'm really going to give it below yesterday's low. There seems to be a nice little demand area down here at 305. Suave looks cool. Stem looks okay. PLL looks fine. On looks great. We'll see how some of these names end up panning out. I mean, I'd like to possibly add to LTHM today, but I don't know. Guys, I've already added Suave and I've already added PLL, and I don't necessarily know. And, I took a tiny position in NOC because of how damn expensive this thing is. But, I don't want to get too aggressive in this market. I really don't. There literally are days when I get 10 alerts going off. And all of them are buyable, and I buy them all, and by day's end, I'm crazy bright green. As good as some of my best day trading days that I could possibly have, in 2020, or early 21, and then it's like now you're in all these names that are just trending higher and are working for you, and it's like literally picking up free money sometimes. But in this market, who knows? And I expect a rally today for the FOMC meeting, just like we've gotten the last couple. And then, but I also know that, the day after that meeting, shit tanks. So I'm, everything you do today has to be, with tons of caution, because the market sucks. But yeah. This is why I won't ever get too bullish or bearish or anything. I just play the setups in front of me. That's all we can do.
Loss.
How's FSLR looking? FSLR hit my alert. Basically, is this perfect little, 138 level, and it just seems to be rejecting for now. I mean, honestly, that's the best thing that this thing can do. If this thing just goes sideways, lets this 20 catch up, even breaks down to this 50, man, I would love to do a dip buy off the 50. I would fucking love it. But again, it's just not perfect. It's just not perfect. This thing has been too, it's like, it's crazy. I'm almost afraid to get into something that's been too strong. Afraid to chase and buy the top, and not that that really matters because I'd keep my wrist tight anyway, but I just don't think it's ready. And our market sucks. How did I decide 138 was the level? Well, zoom in on your hourly chart. You see that little wick, and you see that little wick? Well, draw a line over them. 137.97. What was the high there? 138 was the high on that candle, and 137.96 was the high on that candle. So I just drew a line right above both those tops, and there's your level. And then if you look at the daily, you know, majority of the price action has taken place below that level, right? Below that level. Same thing with this little spot right here. How did I determine it was, you know, 129.72 where I drew my line? Well, you know, you could have drawn, look, let's just look at it like this. This little area here was supply. That little red area. When it broke over it this next day, there was your buy. If you really wanted it, you know, call it 130 even. If you bought it at 130 with your stop at 126, you got $4 risk, and you know, just you know, in a day it was up $10.
WKEY.
By the same day and the next, it was up $10 on you when you were risking 4. You know, 2-to-1 risk reward. I didn't think it was great enough because, you know, it had already made a really big move up, and really the entry for FSLR was down here, 92.5. So it was on earnings. See these earnings? Nice solid earnings, and then over the previous day's high, also right over the pre-market highs. You know, to me that would have been opening range highs. You know, entry at 92, stop at 89. You know, or about $3.50 risk, and you know, you were risking 3%, and now you're up 50%. And that's why I swing. You know, the setups are basically the same. Small variations of the same stuff. But yeah, those EP setups, they're timeless. You know, FSLR had one, EMPH has had one, Suave has had one, Wolf has had one. Which others? LNTH had one earlier in the year. You know, just had one today. You know, look at GIS on earnings, gap up. You know, I mean, guys, it's just small variations of the same exact setup. It's being prepared for them. That's the challenge, right? It's being prepared for them. The levels are easy. Where to buy something's easy. How much of something to buy is pretty easy. You know, that's just that just requires some couple of brain cells, right? Like not oversizing into something, being smart about how much you have in your portfolio versus how much, you know, you're putting to work. Sometimes something is incredibly tight, and on something like GIS, you know, for instance, if I like to buy a 200K positions, you know, and I'm risking like on GIS, you know, if I were risking 70 cents on a on 3,000 shares, well, it's $2,100, right? Okay, but let's just say, and that, by the way, like let's just for the hypotheticals, you got $1 million portfolio. You should only be buying $100,000 position, so you'd have been buying 1,500 shares of GIS with a 70-cent risk. So $1,000 if you're wrong, basically, $1,000. That's 0.01 of your whole portfolio, guys. You should have more, right? It's such a tight setup. You should be willing to risk, you know, 0.5 of 1%, right? Like you're not going to lose 200 trades in a row if you take 200 great solid EP setups, right? So, you know, you should have almost $5,000 of risk. And if you did, now imagine how much more of your money you have at work, right? It's like all of a sudden, you know, even if you own 5,000 shares and had $350,000 at work, you know, you're risking $3,500, you know, like 0.35 of your $1 million portfolio, you know, and yet you have 35% of your portfolio at work in one name, you know. And I'm telling most of you guys that really, you know, if you're just starting off swinging, you should be doing 5% of your portfolio at work. You know, you should have only, if you had $1 million account and you're new at swinging, you should only have 50 grand in this thing, meaning you'd only buy 800 shares. Meaning if you were wrong, you'd be taking a $500 loss on your $1,000,000. Like you wouldn't even lose not a blink of sleep. Like you would go to sleep like a baby that night if that's what happened, you know? But again, sizing in properly on names that are slower, you know, sometimes you have the opportunity to size up a little bit. And if you did buy 5,000 shares and you nailed it properly, well, now all of a sudden you're up 10 or 12,000. You know, now all of a sudden your portfolio's up 1%. You know, you're risking $100 on 5,000 shares, but now you'd be up, you know, $2.50. You know, you'd be up 12 grand, and your portfolio would be up a nice 1%, 1.5%, and it'd be one of many positions you can own, right? And yeah, you're using $350K, but if you had $1 million in buying power, you really have $2 million to play with. And that's the whole idea behind swing trading. You know, GIST wouldn't be the only name I own. I would also own Schwab and Tesla and CCJ and this and that. And now all of a sudden, you know, you've got a full portfolio working, right? All your money and then some. And that's really the whole idea behind swing trading. You know, you'd be in ENPH still, you'd be in Tesla still, you'd be in LTHM still from lower, and you'd be in NOC, you'd be in ON, like, you know, but you're sized into everything proper, you know. I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to open a 350K position on, right? Because, you know, think about that logic for a second. Now all of a sudden you own 5,000 shares, but you're taking a $1.50 risk. Like, are you cool losing that 7,500? Are you cool losing that 1%? You know, and for some people they are. I know a lot of guys, like 1% portfolio risk is totally normal, you know, but what do they do that most don't? They are incredibly selective, right? They keep their frequency low, meaning they don't just take like a $7,000 loss and then another one and then another one and then another one. And like, they don't do that, you know, and they also wait for the market to be, you know, they wait for the market to be a lot healthier. Yeah, this market's definitely kind of meh, you know.
CNSP,
This market's not very exciting.
CVR.
This market is not very exciting at all. But on a positive note, Schwab's starting to look way better. We'll see. Like I said, the names that I'm in are working, but they're all, you know, it's on its leash. You know, everything's being monitored closely, and I'm not just going to keep opening up tons of exposure until the names that I'm in, you know, begin to really work and, you know, show me some kind of a cushion. You know, allow me to peel some shares in these 3 to 5 day pushes. And then, you know, get more aggressive behind a healthy market, you know, in nice setups. But for now, things look okay. CALX would have been a nice undercut rally. Oh my goodness, CALX looks fucking great. Didn't we mention this one on stream the other day too? Holy shit, man, this thing looks amazing. It would have been a good one to buy over yesterday's high. Literally. It would have been absolutely perfect. Or I guess even had you bought it yesterday, wouldn't have been too bad, right? 58.50 over Monday's high. Not bad as well. A little choppy, but even a little thin too. But not bad. Not bad. Nice setup. Yeah, look, guys. Sometimes the candles are too wide, right? You know, there's nothing perfect. You're not always going to get that perfect little red candle, that tight candle. What you're going to get is a range, you know. Or sometimes you have to do something a little different. Sometimes you have to look at this and be like, okay, you know, that's not a bad downtrend break, you know. And then as soon as it breaks that downtrend, you know, start to look for something relatively tight. You know, again, it's not perfect, but Guys, hardly anything ever is in this market. Hardly anything ever is. But what do you notice about CALX right there? Well, it's closed now above the 10 and the 20, right? And then your thought is, okay, this is actually a pretty tight day. If you consider this day right here, it's actually fairly tight. Like, what I mean by that is there's not tons of range going on. It's not putting in like, look at these candlesticks here. These are a little bit wider, right? These candles up here are a bit wider. Today, nice and wide candle. But if you look at this day, it's actually kind of tight, right? And that is all you really need to see. And then you start looking down at the 60-minute, and what can you start telling yourself? Okay, well, it found support on the rising 200, and it closed nice and strong near the highs. And then you scan for it, and you're like, okay, it closed above the 10, and I'm looking at charts just like this when I'm scanning. I'm looking at charts, and it'll look something like that. And I'm sitting there looking at it like, yeah, you know what? That's not so bad. That's not so bad. And then I'd say to myself, okay, well, maybe over this previous day's high would be good. And it was funny because I already had a line there, I think. So, yeah, it's nice to see it work. Yeah, the 59 range is fine. The 59 range is fine. And then what would you say to yourself on the daily? Okay, so like the 59 range is good, and then really, support has been crystal clear down at, 55. So if you have to just take less to widen up your stop, like, you can look at this down here and say, hey, you know what? Buyers have been showing up in that area, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. So take enough size that you can risk down below 55, right? If that means you have to size down and you can't take 10% of your account, or you can't, take a 5%, whatever, like, let it, work. Extend your stop, and then if it tightens up one more time, I mean, what do you also have up here? You've got resistance up here to the left, right? And then it's bumping right into that today, right? The ideal would be, hey, you bought it 2 days ago over, 59, and you're stopping 55. You got $4 of risk, right? It's a little tough. It's like 8% risk. So, you really have to be sized in properly. And then if this just pushes up right to this supply and then just goes sideways another day or 2 or 3, there could be another add-on, right? And you're adding on to something that's working, and then you tighten up your stop a little bit some more. It's just another variation of like pyramiding into that kind of position. And that works too. And again, yeah, if you looked at the industry and it's only got a handful of okay stocks, then, like, I don't know, what industry is CALX even in? Let me look. Software application. Yeah, there's not much, right? So I think STEM's another one of those. That's software application. So, and STEM looks okay. So yeah, there's not tons in that space where you'd be like, oh yeah, these software application names are all just flying. But the setup was decent. The setup was decent. Not bad. Plenty fast, too. The Cytokin, too. It's just, such a choppy name, but it's pretty much got a pretty defined range. Pretty defined range here. We'll see. Okay, software infrastructure. Got it. Yeah, software, I guess. Yeah, IBKR, I think it's like one of those banking names, isn't it? Isn't it? I don't. It's Interactive Brokers. I mean, I know who they are, but I don't know what they're considered. But yeah, IBKR, Raymond James Financial, like RJF. This shit's starting to look great, guys. And I don't know, how high these go. Point is they're slow. They're super slow. But if this thing finishes out, call it like a tight red day today, and the market's healthy, this thing takes out the tops of today, tomorrow or something. I mean, that could be a beautiful setup. Again, it's not perfect by any means, and it's slow, and it, probably require, You know, a little bit bigger size to play something this slow. Plus, it's not super duper liquid, but you get the concept, right? Move up, pull back, find support on the rising 50. Push back up, pull back, found support on the rising 20. Push back up, get tight, give you a clean supply area, and you buy the fucking thing. I mean, that's it. Yeah, the sector, and when we were talking about this too the other day, like it's nice to see Humana, you know, holding up. It's nice to see Molina Health holding up. It's nice to see Cigna holding up. Um, Cigna kind of rejected today, but it's nice to see them holding up. And you know, it could be one another sector next to the solar sector that just sets up to go higher. You know, and something like that could help the market, you know, keep it afloat. This BSM's getting my attention more and more, even though it's not super liquid. It's just got a really nice pivot, and it's finding support on the rising 50 every time. You know, probably better for one of you guys in this room. You know, honestly, if it can clear those 1650s, I have no position in this thing, but I've literally had it on watch now for a while, and it's not going away. CHK acting better. Yeah, EMPH looks fine. Everybody was writing the name off as you know, doom and gloom. It's got to roll over. No, nobody knows. You know, is it tough to buy up here? Yeah, sure. You almost want to get in before the crowd, kind of like we did, but hopefully Tesla ends up holding this 50. It was nice to see. Right there. Nice to see it holding that 50.
Swarm.
But yeah, it's just good practice to keep scanning, position sizing, patience. You know, you guys already know all the little pieces to the puzzle. Now it's just a matter of putting them together, right, for yourself. And PLMR. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's already made a massive move, and it just needs a bigger base. 60%. But yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. I kind of liked it a little bit more down here when it wicked off of the 20. And, you know, even though this day kind of looks wide and loose, you know, it's actually pretty tight open to close. You know. But what do you notice about this name? It's fairly illiquid, man. It's fairly illiquid. I mean, it's trades like on its biggest days like 300,000 shares. I mean, that's just, you know. Yep. But very, very, very thin. Oh, nice. Yeah, you were playing it as it was basically taking out these tops. That's a good one. That would have been a good one.
FORZ.
If you had your alerts set up here, that would have been the way. Yeah, it's the fourth green day in a row, but it's breaking out of the range, you know? And then you get the 4-day momentum push,
FORZ.
trim a little piece into this extension, or third day, whatever, 85 to 88, trim a little piece, and then keep the rest till close below the 20. Yep, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's how you would execute that to the T. It's literally how I execute, guys. It's literally how I execute. Or even if you had been looking at the hourly, I mean, you could have drawn a pretty clear downtrend, right here. Excluding these little wicks that barely matter. The majority of price action took below that trend line. As soon as it started to break over that trend line, which really would have been over this day's high, there could have been a good entry right there. But again, super liquid, tough. Tough. But a nice $10 move. Things look okay, though. Things look okay. I would love to see LTHM close like this. I feel like I say this about a lot of stocks, and I never get what I want. Yeah, you will, brother. You're going to get far with this trading thing, man. Just be patient with yourself. I'm not doing anything magical out here, man. My skill is scanning. My skill is scanning and patience, which patience I used to never have. Some of my friends will attest to that. Same will my mom and my girlfriend. They'll tell you I'm not a very patient person. But when it comes to trading, I'm very patient, because you only need a handful of years all year, a handful of trades all year to make a great year. And that goes for you guys too. You only want to be in the best names in the stock market. If you want to day trade, fine. Find the names that are most liquid. Start buying dips off of previous resistance. That's what I suggest. But if you want to make an absolute fortune in this market with the least amount of stress, you swing trade and size properly and sit patiently. That's all you can do. Yeah, would be nice to get what we want. Yeah, LTHM's not going to give me what I want. It's almost very unlikely. But if it closes like this, like an inside bar and then another inside bar, that would be absolutely ideal. It would make this a perfect setup. It would make this an absolutely perfect setup. Higher lows, surfing on the 20, and lower highs. Just absolutely perfect.
STKH.
But I don't think I've ever gotten what I've wanted with trading. You can ask for the perfect setup and you just never freaking get it. And of course the SPY is in like this most god-awful trading range today. Just doing nothing, even on the smaller time frame. It's just doing nothing. Just stuck in a range until 2 p.m. But boy, would it be nice to get what I want. That would be sweet if we can get a really nice inside day on LTHM and like a maybe as stupid as this sounds, on something like LTHM, maybe we get like a shakeout with the FOMC meeting, and then this thing kind of tanks, and then you get like that recovery, and then LTHM kind of closes where it's at now. Literally, how the candlestick looks right now would be so ideal, and then tomorrow over 35 would be absolutely perfect. I mean, you really couldn't ask for something better looking. You really couldn't. Again, we almost never get what we want, like never. So I'm not expecting it, but if we did, it would make that setup tomorrow look perfect. You know, even Pi looks okay too. Pi looks just fine. But yeah, it feels like a lot of these names are just waiting, you know, for 2 p.m. And believe me, I will have hard stops in place right around that time. I'm not going to be scrambling around to have to get myself out of things. Um, yeah, so can I show you the metrics our scans must have to find stocks that are setting up? It's going to be different for everybody. You know, my scans don't necessarily show me what's setting up. I have to find them, right? But I've got scans, you know, that have, you know, some certain criteria. Like some scans, you know, I like volume to be drying up. You know, some scans, I like the ADR to be over 5, you know, trading over $10 million in dollar volume, and be above the 200-day moving average, right? I mean, that's one of the criteria for one of the scans. So like this one right here that I'm going through, it's got to be above the 200. It's got to be trading above $10 million in dollar volume, and it has to have an ADR above 5, right? And so certain certain scans have certain criteria. You really just have to ask yourself, like, what is it you're trying to look for? One of the best scans you can make is just the top 30-day gainers, right? Or top 90-day gainers. What stocks in the last 30 days have made the biggest move, right? And I gave this example last week. You know, that's how RYTM came on my radar. I actually day traded RYTM day 2, but it was also on my scan because, you know, it was one of the top 30-day gainers in the market when it gave this move. You know, when it went from 5 to 15, that's by far one of the biggest moves in the market at the time. And what did it do? It pulled back. It got tight, found support on the rising 10. It pushed up. I actually bought it on this day, but that wasn't the right day to buy it, even though these 2 days were super tight. And then it pushed back up, and then it pulled back. It found support again on the rising 10, meaning it put in some higher lows. It got tight, it flagged out, and then it broke out, right? And there was 8-2 was the better day to buy it, in my opinion. I bought it at 12.09, but you really should have been getting in like, you know, 13.20s. And then again, the stock ended up working great. 3 to 5 days, and you're up at 25. You know, you've almost caught an 80% move in 5 days. So a simple 30-day gainer scan is you know, what you need. And then, you know, what'll be like if you had a 90-day gainer? Well, RYTM would still be on that scan, right? So you'd be finding charts that look like this, right? A chart that's made a big move up and now just consolidating. And now you just need like a clean pivot, you know, nothing to do with it yet, but, you know, that's all you need, you know. And then obviously some volume constraints and, you know, is always nice. You don't, or and some ADR constraints. You don't want to be looking at super slow names or super illiquid names, so you just pretty much filter those out right away.
Snacks.
Oh wow, Walmart, huh? Is Walmart getting its shit together? Who knows? I wonder how Costco's looking. Oh yeah, not as good as Walmart. Weird. ConocoPhillips refuses to give up. I wanted to buy this down here as a dip buy setup. Down here, you know, it found support on the rising 20 and closed above, and then I wanted to buy it over that day's high, and I just never pulled the trigger. That was a dip buy setup as it found support on the rising 20. You know, sometimes these little dip buy setups, especially in this market, is how you get in before the crowd. Yeah, RYTM making a tight day, but it needs more time. It's still, you know, still sloppy. I don't like this big move up and then followed by this big ugly ass move down. We need to get further away from these 2 days. We need to get further away from these 2 days. Like on the right-hand side. So we need to build out further. You know, I don't like buying so close next to this wide, sloppy, loose action. Yeah. LFG. Oh, nice eye. Yeah, this looks great, man. LFG looks awesome. Nice spot. LFG looks really great, man. Nice eye. You're doing whatever you're doing to spot these, you're doing great, honestly. You know, nice little flag, and it's now building some higher lows, it looks like. You know, and it even broke out over yesterday's really tight red day, inside bar day yesterday. Still kind of within the range. But, you know, where was yesterday's high? Right there. Yeah, if you'd have bought 1976, that doesn't look too bad. But it's still kind of within the range, right? It's just still tightening up. You know, maybe a few more days, but everything's starting to look really good here. Nice big flagpole, right? And now just tightening up. Nice big flagpole and now just tightening up. It looks good. That's a nice find, man. Again, fairly illiquid right now, but you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And it moves plenty fast. You know, you don't have to get too aggressive with size. And you know what? I'd be lying to you if I told you that these energy names still didn't look really good. I still am a firm believer that a lot of these look good until they start proving to me otherwise. You know, LNG still looks decent. You know, just needs to build out a little bit more. CHK still looks rock solid. You know, I don't know how XOM, CVX, these need a little bit more work, but you know, CVX still looks fine too. Chevron actually looks pretty dang solid. You know, Oxy still looks okay in my eyes. Yeah, it's pulling back today, and it could very well be rejecting the 20. But you know what? For now, it's held the 100, and it's above that. You know, the 100. It's like been refusing to close below that. So until that changes, you know, I believe these names are still leading the market. You know, how could we think otherwise? You know, look at the move Oxy's given, you know, this whole year. And has it really died? Not really. Yeah, it's pulled back, but it's up way more than it's down, meaning trend's still way up. Look at the 200, look at the 100, you know. Until this thing really starts to roll over, you know, my belief is that these oil energy names, they're still leading the market. They're still leading the market by quite a bit. You know, XLE is still one of the best looking ETFs in the entire market. Don't let anybody lie to you, telling you that these names are all dying. It's just not true. What do I think about PTLO? Before even looking at the chart, what I think about Portillo's is I love their roast beef sandwiches. I love the roast beef. And I like the strawberry shakes, and their french fries are pretty solid, but usually kind of soggy, but they're still not bad. That's what I think about Portillo. Chicken sandwich is fire. I like Barnelli even a little bit more. Yeah, Portillo's looks cool. These places to eat, they actually have been hitting my scanner quite a bit. Look at Chipotle Mexican Group. I mean, this thing, since it's had earnings and its EP, by the way, Chipotle's another one. You should have bought that EP. I mean, yeah, it's expensive, but who gives a shit? Size properly, even if that means you just buy a fucking share. Yep, Texas Roadhouse. Yep, you guys are absolutely right. I've got some smart people in this chat. It's what I like to see. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Nice of you guys to spot this. Okay, but what looks better, Texas Roadhouse or Portillo's? This should be pretty easy. Right? Texas Roadhouse. Looks way better. right? So which one would you rather be in? I know Portillo's is a little bit cheaper and what have you. I mean, these are all kind of slow, but yeah, even Wing.
GTF.
You know, believe it or not, I was looking at Wing in this dip, and I was just like, okay, this shit's getting ridiculous. I was like, I eat too much Wingstop for this to be down here. You know, I eat too many lemon pepper flats. And it was funny. I was looking at this thing at like $69. You know, like I told myself when I was looking at Starbucks and Wing at 69.69, and I was like, man, I should like own this thing. You know, and sure enough, it was like just a few cents from the low. Literally, it's all this yearly low, 2 cents before the low, and same thing with Starbucks. You know, 69.69, just as a, you know, kind of a joke to own it at that price. And sure enough, man, boy, do I wish I got filled down there. Don't I wish? I would have been slapping the bottom on these things. But again, I don't want to buy the dips, guys. That's not my style. Curious, yeah, it's getting tight on the 100. That's nice. You know, it's the candlesticks are getting incredibly tight down here. So, you know, are sellers getting exhausted? Maybe. Maybe. It's been really nice since its EP as well. It gapped up out of its range, above all moving averages. You know, you guys should have been buying this, and then look at what it ended up doing. A 50% move in a month. 60% if you bought the EP. Guys, when I tell you that something coming out of strong earnings on big volume, you know, being on top of shit like this is so important. And then that's how you don't miss these moves like GIS. GIS hasn't even thought about rolling over so far. It's perfectly strong. Hopefully we'll see enough of these EP setups that'll beat into your guys' brain about how nice this is. But you know what? Cruise should be good because very soon it should probably post earnings again. And when it does, you know, it's going to be well up above all moving averages. Probably one to monitor. You know, if this thing maybe starts to gap up over this little range here on earnings, you know, it might be pretty good. It's a nice little flat top. But yeah, I don't necessarily like how much Cruise has had to pull back. But again, the move up was pretty crazy in just a really short period of time. You know, the 10, 20, 50 are anything but tight. You know, so like buying this thing up here was a no-go for me. But if you caught the EP, perfect. You know, if you caught the EP and as it was taking out these tops too, I mean, you know, right here, just absolutely perfect. You'd have been catching the bottom of that breakout. Yes, sirree. Just another little variation of that same setup we've been going over, guys. That's the episodic pivot or the EP or the power earnings gap setup, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. And meanwhile, you know, EMPH still acting like a leader. Despite what, you know, all the U.S. investing champions had to say about it. Despite what their opinions were about it, EMPH still acting perfectly fine. It's why we ignore all opinions, guys. I don't care if you're Mark Minervini, or I don't care if you're Christian Koulamagi, or I don't care if you're Ryan. You know, as much respect as I have for all of them, everything people have to say, including what I have to say, it's just opinion. It's just opinion. And opinions don't pay. My opinion does not pay. What pays is this price. What pays is respecting sell rules and sizing properly and being patient in a leading sector. That's what pays. You know, and again, and I've got the utmost respect for Mark Minervini and Christian Koulamagi and Ryan. Those are some of my favorite traders. Oliver Kell too. I respect them all. I've learned tons from all of them. But that doesn't mean that I just start breaking my sell rules because, you know, the chart looks like whatever according to them, you know. The fact is it's holding the 20. on the daily. And even during this morning's flush, I said, it's early. We're going to give it to the end of the day to figure its shit out. And this thing would have to come down $11 from here and close, down at 302, 301 for me to think about leaving. And at this point, really, it would probably have to close below today's low of day. That's what it would have to do. It's really important we don't listen to anybody's opinions when it comes to trading, minus our own. Nobody's forcing you to click the button. Nobody's forcing you to buy how much you buy, and nobody sells it for you or buys it for you. You have to listen to yourself. You have to have studied these setups so that you can feel comfortable through the ebbs and flows. Man, this LTHM looks so good. Kind of disappointed in these uranium names right now. It just doesn't have the luster, doesn't have the juice. I mean, URNM's hanging on by a thread, and it could very well bounce from this area. It's almost like my expectation, but again, expectations, don't mean much. Expectations don't pay. LTHM's probably going to stay on my front screen here. It's the only one that, is in like some real buyable position. Tesla is acting well. It's nice to see. Looks okay. Suave not doing a ton, but I will respect my stop. Yeah, nothing is super exciting right now. Even this NOC is not really working. Almost makes me wish I had taken some General Mills instead. Makes me want to go pour a bowl of cereal. Cocoa Puffs for support. Do do do. Oh yeah. Wow. Um. Hey, Les. Yeah, I did. I took a couple today. I took a small position in NOC as it gapped out of this daily range. Just really nice volatility contraction, massive base on the daily. Finally broke out. I took a tiny piece of PLL at 64 and change, and using 62 as a stop. What else? And I took a small piece of Suave as well. Stop at low a day. Again, I'm being very light, especially today. You know, the Fed meeting today, and if things are, if the market pushes higher, and these things, decide that they're going to push up some more through that pivot, I might add a little more Suave or PLL if it can get right back through that 64, but we'll see. Yeah, HRB is another one of those names. HRB starting to look nice as well. Everything's nice and tight. It's already made a massive move, though. It's made a huge move. I went over this one a couple days ago. The entry was down at $25.50. $20 ago. That was the setup. Or, this second EP here. EP'd once on earnings, and it EP'd again on earnings. You should have bought it that second time around. But yeah, there is again, the EP setup, where is it? Right there. 41.75. Yeah, HRB is kind of like that X setup. Yep. Tried to break down, and it failed breakdown, and then great earnings. It failed to break down, and then a failed breakdown could lead to a big breakout. Had great earnings, and then insane volume for, days and days in a row. And we talk about 5-day momentum burst. There it is. 25 to 35 in 5 days. Sell a piece, trail the rest. 35% move in 5 days. I mean, even if you waited for day 3, 25% move in 3 days. Sell a piece, trail the rest. You get a move like this, I'm using the 50. This is clear institutional support after big, nice earnings. This is institutions getting involved, and they're buying dips. They're buying wherever. So I'd be using the 50. If I got a move like this and then I trimmed in the 30s, I'd be using the 50. You'd still be in this. And you wouldn't have had to have bought again. Until, of course, it's set up again. And then maybe you could have added on this EP setup. You'd have been bringing up your average, but that wouldn't have mattered. And yeah, now it's setting up again as well. It's setting up again really well. Nothing doing just yet. Light volume today. Everything's light volume in this market. Nothing to get aggressive with. Can you please explain further how you value which moving average you use to stop in certain scenarios? Well, I want to use the 20 most of the time, but it really depends your average, guys. It depends where you buy. If you were prepared to buy H&R Block because you noticed it gapped up on earnings and the earnings were solid, you looked at the earnings report and it was a surprise beat, et cetera, EPS was way up, and it starts to press, opening range highs right away. You're buying, and then if you wait, because I like to wait 3 to 5 days before I sell anything. So, okay, by day 3, you're up at 32. You're up way above your average, and let's just assume you sell something, then you're really waiting for, a close below the 20. Like in the back of my mind, I still want to use the 20. But then, as you get days and days further, you realize okay, this thing's, pushing further and holding up well. And, when you get something like that, I just extend my stop. I would look at this first pullback here where it held the 10, and I would maybe start to think about these lows, down the road. Okay, so you'd say, all right, well, it held the 10 really well. So, all right, maybe let's see how it reacts when it gets to this 3250 level. And then time goes on and it pushes out even further. And then when it pulls back, it doesn't break below that 3250 level. Even though it's below your 20, it's not below that first little pullback that held the 10. So I'm going to continue to be patient. Why? Because you've already sold some. Worst case scenario, the whole thing gets sold, for a 25% gain. No harm, right? And so you're patient, and even though it breaks the 20, it doesn't break below that pivot area that you were using from before. And then it presses back up, and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave my stop at 3250. Before you know it, as this thing pushes back up, now your 50 is well above that 3250 area. There's nothing to do. And at that point, I want to use the 50. I want to be as patient as possible with the trade. Once the 50 gets, above that first pivot, but it's always the 20 for me at first, realistically. But once it held, these lows, and then it held it again, once it held here, and then it held here, it's still a higher low, essentially. It's a higher low. And that's how I would treat it. And then, I want to use the bigger moving average always. I want to allow the thing to make as big of a move as possible. And okay, who cares if it went to 48 and then you got stopped out at 42? Who gives a shit? You're in at 25. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that you gave back $6. You just made $17 a share, $18 a share. QQ, actually, Christian uses the 20. And I've even seen him switch to the weekly chart. So, I've seen him do it with LAC, on this front side somewhere. He used the weekly. He used the weekly chart here. So, and he eventually got stopped out and gave a bunch of gains back, but it just is what it is. You know, you're not going to catch an absolutely massive move if you're using the 10, which is super tight. It's just not going to happen. Yep.
BRYGF.
Tesla's acting well. Yeah, I don't see a ton else to do here, guys. It's just going to be a matter of managing our risk. I know FSLR hit my alert again, and it's, it keeps pressing up against these little tops, but I really won't take it today. I won't take it at all. Not up here. I need to see this thing build a bigger base or break down a little, undercut something. I mean, it needs EMPH, obviously is a little different because I'm already in, and I'm in from, 288 basically, down here. So I won't manage it too much more than that. But FSLR, I wish I could own it. I really wish I could. It's just clear and obvious how strong this thing is, but I can't get aggressive here. It's just would be the wrong thing. Would be the wrong thing to do. I don't want to chase anything. I want to be in before the crowd, almost like we were with the MPH. If this thing ends up breaking out, we're in well before the crowd. Can we add? Sure. Could we even open up a new position and manage risk? Sure. But, I want to be in before the crowd. And hopefully LTHM closes here. I'm just begging it too. It'd be the first time that a stock will have listened to me. It'll be a first. NOC. It's too bad. We'll see. But ON looks good. ON looks good. Nice little inside bar day yesterday. Held up fairly well. Kind of crummy market. Still holding up. Hopefully my stop's respected. PLL looks fine. Stem looks fine. Suave looks like it's not doing much, but looks fine. Tesla looks pretty good. Tesla pressing right back up. And then, to my disappointment, it never fails. I mean, I'm green on it, and I'm nice green on it still. But these, I don't know. CCJ actually looks fine too. Everything looks fine. And we'll see. I don't see a whole lot else to do here, guys. Not unless you guys have a couple questions. Nice little 3-hour session today. I'll be sure to get this. This one was actually recorded, so I will upload it to YouTube. Apologies for whoever was looking for this yesterday. I literally forgot to hit the record button. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Benny. We forgive you. Well, that's because you're here. I have a question. What's the story behind the name? Ariel? My name? Is that what you're asking? What's the story behind my name? My actual name or my trading name? Which one are you asking about? Yeah, I actually just that was actually me talking to myself when I came up with the name. I was like mad at myself, for making a really simple mistake, and I was just like, Ariel, you gotta keep shit real simple. Like, I was just like, keep shit real simple, Ariel, and I was just like, and I just like said that to myself, like, you gotta just keep things way more simple. And that's literally how I came up with it. As corny and stupid as that sounds, I was just mad at myself, frustrated because I just made I don't remember exactly what the error was, but I wasn't keeping it simple. I was like trying to overthink the stock, and I think I remember like just like selling something that I shouldn't have sold, and I was just like, you got to keep shit real simple, Ariel. And I was just like, you know what, real simple, Ariel. And that's how I remember, like, you got to keep things really simple in this market. Just keep things really simple in this market. I say this all the time, guys. Like, figuring out where to buy something's not difficult. You're waiting for a healthy market in a market that's actually uptrending on at least a 60-minute chart isn't very difficult. Figuring out what sectors are strong isn't very difficult. Figuring out where to sell something, that's the difficult part, right? But that's why we use moving averages. And so that's what keeping it simple means, keeping it real simple. Just following some moving averages. I wish I used simple moving averages. It would almost even be, what would they say? It would be like a perfect, whatever, match made in heaven, using simple moving averages and keeping shit simple. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. Is I want to remind myself all the time to keep things really simple. And I'm trying to catch as big of winners as I can, by being patient. And oftentimes, like I remember in 2021, I probably left 3 or 4 trades on the table that were 7-figure winners. Like 3 or 4 7-figure winners on the table, not keeping it simple, overriding my sell rules, thinking I knew best, like thinking I knew, that, oh, this stock has gone up too much here, like I'm going to just be cool and take my money off the table. And then, sure enough, I'm looking back a week later and I'm just like, holy shit. I'm like, had I just waited 5 more days, like you know, like literally 96 more hours, and then you something like that happens to you, or and you're missing out on $800,000 or more. It's like it doesn't feel good. And if you had just kept it more simple and followed some stupid sell rules on your screen with some colored lines, you'd be much better off. And yeah, overriding sell rules sounds so familiar to me. Yeah, that's why I use moving averages. I literally just take the guesswork out of it. Whoever's there buying to begin with, I'm hoping that they continue to do what they're doing. And every now and again, you're going to catch a really big sized move. It's like you're going to, and you only need one or two of them all year to like make a huge, advancement in your portfolio. I had a friend of mine, People Wish, and he didn't trade pretty much all year. And then the market was in a rally a few months ago. He caught one incredibly great trade, and then the rest just subpar, just nice little trades over a month and a half. He almost 50% his account in a month, and that's all you need. You grow 50% account growth in a month, because he's keeping shit real simple, and he doesn't override his sell rules. As a matter of fact, he's got something else he does with his life, so he doesn't have to sit there and overthink about it. He bought what he needed, his stops are in place, and then he goes and continues about his life, and has other things he does with his life, and just lets his positions work. Yeah, it depends how tight something is, right? So like okay, so how do you work your stop losses? First day, low day, then after that 20 MA. So like I had noticed that I had been finding support on the rising 50. And so when I bought it 3 days ago, or 2 days ago, whatever, I was using the stop at 50. I wasn't even using low of day. Or like LTHM, it had found support on the rising 20 here. Let me highlight it for a few of you guys. Right there. Okay, and then right here. Right? So as it started to push back up over these tops, 3150, if you had longed it perfectly, my stop isn't low of day. It's going to be, the close of the 20. Right? So it wasn't going to be low of day. It was going to be a close below the 20. So it wouldn't have been 3160. It was going to be, a close below 30. And so there are times when, it just is right away that I'm using the 20. But again, I calculate how much I can lose. If I'm in at, 3150, how much would you even lose? And I'm going to keep it honest with you guys. When I bought LTHM, I chased it up a little bit and I got in on a smaller time frame. So, I wouldn't have necessarily used the close of the 20 right away. But then as soon as it started to work for me for a few days and then even pulled back and then found support on the rising 20 again, like, now I'm just, stubbornly using the 20. But under most scenarios, if you're ready to execute where you're exactly supposed to as a chart's breaking out, then yeah, it really depends where the chart currently is, in relation to your entry. That's a little, caveat. So like, even when I bought EMPH, and I bought it on 9.6 as it was breaking 288 basically, you could have used the stop of the low a day because now that's also below the 20, right? So it really depends where price is in relation to that moving average. But it's why I like to wait for tight. Tight, just limits my risk and also allows me to use that moving average, the 20 right away. And then if a stock really begins to push and then I trim some on day 3 to 5, I might, then extend my stop to the 50. It just really depends how early in the move I believe it is, how healthy our market is, what sector it's in, little nuances like that. Exactly. So it depends on which stop offers a tighter risk, correct? I always want my risk to be as low as possible. It's like the only thing going through my mind at all times. What's my risk? What's my risk? What's my risk? Like I calculate that before I hit the buy button and before I type in how many shares I want. and give or take, a certain dollar amount, a couple bucks either direct. Like, for the most part, I know what I'm gonna lose or what I'm set to lose on anything, before I ever get in. Is there a way to have it show up on a chart when triggered? Yeah, so that's a good question. Question for the alerts. Is there a way to have it show up on the chart when triggered without having to type the... Well, here's the thing. Okay, so when I have alerts set, I've got these two things you guys aren't seeing over here, right? I've got what's called Message Center, and I've got my key list, right? So when an alert hits, I've got my names in alphabetical order. So when an alert hits, I just click right on the name, right? And it pulls up right away. So I see the alert, I instantly go to the name, and then, I kind of see how it's reacting at that area, and then I'll like take the name, I'll drag it over to my level 2, and then, I'll take it from there. Right? But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it's how I do it. I see the alert, and then I go to the name, and I'm prepared, right? I've got my list of names that I would even consider to be in viable positions right here, right off to the side of my screen. You guys just don't see it, but it's right there. It's just, it's just right off to the side. And my alert hits, I see it, I hear it, and then I find my name in alphabetical order quickly. And then I'm prepared to execute. And something that I believe might be a nice setup. And for the most part, all of these names, they're on my focus list from the night before. This isn't like some, something new. Now, every now and again, I need to be a little bit more diligent about making sure I check the gap ups and, the earnings. Like, I should have found GIS this morning, but I didn't. Right? No excuse. I need to be better. Right? I need to be better. And I would have bought something like just even, I don't care how slow it is. I mean, I do, but I could have easily bought something like this with, call it 5,000 shares and, taking that 80-cent risk, no problem. I mean, it wasn't even 80-cent risk from your entry. That's the crazy part. Low of day was like 50 cents. Holy shit. And this FSLR refuses to give up. This fucking thing. Right back up at that area. These solars are acting so good. FSLR just keeps tapping that 138 area. 138. It's just nothing I can do, but it'll bode well for my EMPH. And again, remember, guys, like everybody thought, these things were due to roll over and die today. Could they? For sure they can. I'm not questioning that they can't. But the fact that it undercut the 20 today, held it, and pushed right back up into the range, I mean, that's good. That's healthy. And now if it goes sideways again tomorrow, because again, this would be the expectation. Nice little push up today with the FOMC meeting, just like we've had the last few days. And then the market likes to tank tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. But after EMPH pushes up and then tanks tomorrow, we really won't even call it tanking. It'll probably, possibly, still continue to hold the 20. And this thing will just tighten up some more. It'll tighten up some more. It'll let the 50 catch up a little bit more. And this name can go higher. Ignore opinions. Tesla, let's go. Nice. Still acting very well. Suave not doing much for me, unfortunately, but we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, EMPH couldn't really look much stronger today. Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, this is a close here would be about as nice of a close as you're going to get. would be about as nice of a look as you're going to get. And again, could this be breaking out over this downtrending line tomorrow? Possibly. So, if it pushes up far enough and then it starts to take out this, 317, 318 all the way to 320, I mean, that's a pretty good look. That's a pretty good look. But none of us know, right? None of us know. But what we do know is it's possibly putting in higher lows. It's respecting the 20. And it's in one of the best sectors in the entire market. I unfortunately too, I had to cut my tan yesterday. I didn't like having to do that, but I had an awesome average on tan. I was in it for almost 2 months. Almost 2 months. If it sets back up, it would be nice. Give us something flat and buyable, but I had to stop myself out yesterday. It officially closed below the 50, and I just couldn't hold it anymore. And look at PI. PI looks great. I know somebody in this room bought it earlier. I'm hoping they're still in. I think it might have been Uni. PI looks good. That's why you can't ever worry about it just wicking back after a morning push. Your stop is low of day. Respect it. And if you're in 92, you're looking pretty good. Nice trade by Uni. On tan, did I stop out for a loss? Oh, no loss, man. See this line down here? That's me. 74.96. And of course, I respect, 3 to 5 day momentum bursts, and I did. I actually took profit on day 2 because it gapped up so hard. So, yeah, I took some off in the like 84, I think it was, or maybe like 83 something, and then obviously it went all the way up to 90, and then I just sold the rest down here. 82. Yeah, it'd been nice to have nailed some 90 sells, but I didn't. I was oversized a little bit because of the movie MPH gave. So I was oversized just a little bit down here. So I was not mad with the almost $10 move I got in 2 days at all. Especially with the size that I had. It was really nice. But yeah, all my sells have been for profit. My average was way lower. And again, you see how it held this 50 here? And it held it well? Almost like I was explaining with HRB. I really could have used a close below this low pivot of 80.50 basically. And, even today it held it. So sometimes I need to, consider doing that. Just being willing to extend my stop a little bit below this pivot. But I didn't. I'm okay to buy it back higher as long as it sets up again. But, if this thing presses back up tomorrow, yeah, I'll be a little slightly disappointed I don't own TAN anymore. The solar ETF. But
FRTG. CPTN.
unfortunate. It's nothing strong acting about this thing right now. And Yura is not helping the cause. Who knows? Do.
GPII.
Am I gonna be live over the Fed meeting? What is it at 2? Yeah, I'll actually be sitting at my desk because I'll be monitoring all my positions. So, I might go just take a lunch break. I might just go take a quick lunch break and then come back and restream for FOMC meeting. Hop on, maybe around 1:30. Take a nice little 90-minute break. I've been on all morning sitting at my desk, so. I don't have much going on today. I'm just kind of relaxing. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I'll actually I'll take a break and then or what I might do is I'll actually probably just yeah, I'll hop back on. I'll be back on at About 1:30 Central Time. So yeah, I'm gonna go eat something really quick, and then I'll be back on around 1:30. You guys will probably see me go live again. So yeah, just kind of be on the lookout, and we'll go over positions, and we'll just see how we manage what we have to manage, and what ends up shaping up for tomorrow. So yeah, Portillo's time. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I have Grubhub. I might actually order some Portillos. Actually, it sounds like a great idea. But anyway, guys, I'll see some of you guys in about 90 minutes or so, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So, for those who won't come back, it was nice to see you, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you guys soon.